Hey, welcome everybody. This is Conspiracy or Not. Here we come, and look who we have. We have Charles Kos and we have Mark Charles from Global Agenda. Hello, everybody. Hello, Amy and Ian.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
And you guys can hear me okay right now, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. For the record, I am on location. I am broadcasting live from Devil's Tower, Wyoming at this very moment. You can see the mountain. You can see the monument over my shoulder. It's cloudy, foggy. It's been raining all day, and hopefully my Wi-Fi holds up. And I just want to say hello again to Charles and Mark. Hi, guys. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
Hi, Aaron. Looking good from here, buddy.
All right,
Hi,
cool. As
Charles.
long as you guys can. As an amazing coincidence, I wanted to catch this on air. The people you see standing behind me actually happen to be Chuck Zukowski of UFO.com, UFOnut.com. And he actually rolled up in the campsite next to me yesterday. And with a little bit of luck, our schedules what might allow us to sit down and have a little interview either tonight or tomorrow morning. So everybody keep your fingers crossed for that. He's a cool dude, and I'm looking forward to talking to him. How you guys been?
Great. How you been out there?
Amazing.
Road trip going?
So I heard there was a bombing in London.
Yeah, the two
A
bombs.
What happened?
bombing. A pseudo bombing. It wasn't a bombing.
That's what
22 injured. 22
Yes.
injured.
Oh, of course. Gee, imagine that. Oh my god.
Oh my.
This is getting really pathetically obvious.
Yeah. Oh
Well,
my god.
and you know, I don't know if you saw Annie Logical's vid of this bombing.
Mm-hmm.
Here they've got this mess, and they've got they're all around it. Everything is pristine. I mean, there's it's sitting right next to this seat, and the seat
Oh.
sparkly clean. I mean, there isn't a bit of nothing on it.
No.
It's like
Amy.
Visual
that's
things,
bomb.
really.
Mhm.
Amy, I was lying in bed last night, and I guess because they're 5-6 hours ahead of us, right? I'm in Toronto Eastern Standard Time, and I just saw 22 injured, and I put my phone. I just said, "Are you kidding me?" And then
Well-
when I heard that they were injured from flash burns, and then I saw the picture of the little bomb, and it was in a plastic bucket,
Hey, I'll be up
and it was
tonight.
just on fire. Like, are you kidding me?
Yes.
You gotta do better than this.
And do you know who is pushing this psyop?
They don't.
I forget his first name, but his last name is Crowley, and he, I believe, is the son of the infamous
That's
son or
it.
the grandson. He's related at any rate.
Mark, they
And
don't.
he's got
they don't-
pictures.
They're not even trying anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say,
No.
Mark. They don't even have to try anymore at all because the people are just not cluing in anyway.
Ian,
He's-
Baba
he's
Black
got-
Sheep, haven't seen any wool. Yes, sir, 5 bags full. Baba Black Sheep, have you any wool? Yes, sir. A bomb went off today and 22 were injured.
Well,
Oh,
I heard at one point one place was announcing that 33 were injured.
But when they get their tabs counted, Amy, when they finally get their numbers counted, it'll be 22 injured and 33 with facial burns.
Yes. Oh,
But
Well,
you're right,
the
Ian.
thing
You're right.
about
They
it
don't
was-
even try anymore. They've got it locked.
They
Locked
just
up.
run. They just run drills, and then they show you the stock footage as a real event, and that's all it is. I mean, they don't have to try
well,
anymore.
and the pictures that this Crowley dude showed, where he was saying facial charring, right? And what it looked like was he took some dark sand and combed it into his hair. It was absolutely not what you would find.
No, you know what he did, Amy? You know what he did? He took the soot from the train tracks, the subways, how they create the smoke from their brake lines. He took some of that and rubbed it on his face and said, "I got facial burns."
Well, no, because the face, there were no burns anywhere. It just looked like little pieces of sand that were stuck to his scalp. His hair was undamaged.
I'm just
the
glad I
flesh
haven't even
was
had the chance to look at this
undamaged.
stuff.
Oh, Aaron, Like
Yeah,
an
it must be-
hourglass through sand, so are the days of our lives.
Yeah. Another day in the New World Order. That's all it is.
Ouch.
So, Charles, what do you think of all this?
Well, it's very interesting, and especially with those, even with those, the numbers coming up, and I haven't yet worked out myself how those numbers are coming up, because
Well-
there's so many synchronicities going on.
It's not
Yep.
a chance that the numbers come up. They just create it with those numbers.
Yes,
Or
they
in
choose.
play. Like they use those numbers. They, like Amy said, they choose them.
Yeah, they choose the numbers specifically because of their significance.
It's already installed on the artificial intelligence routers, whatever you want to call it. So they've already got the numbers pre-programmed. I've got the CNN app on my phone. Of course, I have to have CNN because, you know, when the caca is hitting the fan. And I was scrolling through their stories today, and the second one that came up was North Korea launches missile 770 kilometers off of Japan's
How
coast.
many? 777.
770. I mean, are you kidding?
Oh
So
no!
I just ate the 22, and then I'm scrolling and I see, and then CBC here in Canada, the CBC is putting it out that North Korea launched a missile 770 kilometers over Japan. That's where it landed. Are you kidding me, Charles? The 22 and the 77 equals 99. Wayne Gretzky.
You know,
I
want to put this out there for anybody within the sound of my voice, because I've not heard a single person mention this. With all the hype that we hear about North Korea, right? We're supposed to be afraid that he could launch a nuke at us at any minute. Every other week, he's got some new capability, and now he can reach the U.S. and Guam, and now he can reach the West Coast and all
Canada.
on and on.
They're saying he can reach Calgary, Alberta.
Look, here's everybody on the panel and everybody in the chat. By the way, I'm not watching the chat because I'm trying to keep my Wi-Fi down. Have anybody ever heard one pundit, one radio announcer, one article mention our missile defense system?
Never.
And we're supposed to be afraid of this tiny country with 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 bombs. We have no missile defense.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. They just need it. That's all it is. They need this conflict. They need this enemy.
Well, they can't get Albert Pike's World War III going without an enemy.
Or maybe they're playing the incompetent card, because didn't we just have a second destroyer or battleship collide with a second cargo tanker?
USS Fitzgerald.
Right.
No,
and
McCain.
the
McCain,
McCain.
too. Yeah.
That's right. It was the first one was a Fitzgerald.
Yep.
Yeah, and the second one was the McCain. Yeah.
Charles, what's your opinion on the North Korea thing?
Well, it's, you know.
I mean, have you even paid any attention? Because I know you just dive deep into what you do. So, I mean, we're not trying to drag you into, something.
No worries. Well, it's it's a continuation. I mean, North Korea hasn't changed in 60 years. It's still much the same system. It's like looking back to the 20th century, with them, But yeah, I haven't dived in much. I don't even watch the news, to be honest.
It's just another lurking bad man. It's just another boogeyman that they keep in the closet. They bring them out when they need them.
Yeah. Rinse and repeat.
So, Charles, what have you been working on lately? I liked the video you put up yesterday, or was it today?
Yeah, great.
Thank you. It would have been yesterday your time, and today, this morning your time, and my time was yesterday because I've just woken up. So it's about Hanging Rock, and it's the Australian version of where you are, Aaron, which is an absolutely unbelievable place. And I've noticed some similarities between the two places. For example, I was reading last night about Devil's Tower, and it is sacred to about 12 different Indian tribes. They all wanted to be associated with it, and they think it's a place where spirits manifest. And I thought this was really interesting. There is one tale about a Lakota warrior. He was doing a kind of spirit vision quest at Devil's Tower, which means he was praying, fasting. And the legend goes that he woke up on top of Devil's Tower. and he was down the bottom. He woke up on top. He didn't know what to do. He prayed to the gods. He went back to sleep, and when he woke up again, he was down the bottom. So at least there is some kind of astral travel going on associated with that location. There's some kind of geomagnetic phenomena or something influencing us and putting us into a different state of consciousness so that we can astral travel. And there are other legends about that place. For example, there was a battle between two tribes at the foot of that hill. And according to legend, a huge bear spirit manifested and won the battle for one of the tribes. And in fact, all of the tribes, they call it either Bear Lodge or Ghost Mountain. And the Lakota tribe, they also refer to it as Owl Peak, whatever that means. So I find this all amazing because some of those sites in Victoria, for example, that place I made a video about, Hanging Rock, that's spooky as anything. The whole of Western Victoria, it's yeah.
Are you in Victoria?
I am.
I'm in Victoria too. Imagine that.
Oh wow.
Victoria, BC, Canada.
God save the Queen.
God save our little old queen.
Okay. There's also another legend by a local tribe here of a tribe of Indians that were camped nearby the tower. It also involves a bear. There were 7 young girls playing nearby. They were chased by a bear. They climbed up on top of this mound. It was about 3 foot tall, a little small outcrop of rock. And they prayed to the rock, save us, save us. And the rock grew out of the ground, lifting the girls higher and higher out of the bear's reach. And as the bear jumped and clawed at the rock as it grew, that's how the scratches got into the sides. And then it continued to lift the girls so high that they ultimately became the constellation known as the Pleiades.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
Interesting thing is when I was reading this out of one of the pamphlets in the local town, one of the first sentences describes these 7 girls that were playing nearby. And I immediately said to myself, Indians, legend, 7 Pleiades. Before I even got to the bottom.
That's probably the inspiration behind the whole Close Encounters movie as well.
Yeah, this is a really beautiful, magical, interesting, gorgeous place. And the rock formation itself, as we know, is made out of hexagonal crystalline structures that are literally 890 some feet tall. Okay, so this is like a giant piezoelectric antenna receiver. Okay, so the energy around here is without a doubt spectacular. The landscape is beautiful and just everything about this place is amazing.
Now, Charles, you mentioned in your video there that you could notice the crystalline structure of the mountain.
Well, you can with Devil's Tower.
Formation.
With Hanging Rock, it's less obvious. The rocks they really do look like trees. And I was speaking, there was a horticulturalist in one of my comments, and he was saying those trees would not grow as close together as that. So I'm thinking either it was some catastrophe that covered everything up, or that is just the outer rim of a giant tree. I'm not convinced that it's crystalline quartz. I mean, it might be quartz in the present form, but I don't think it was. Yep. You
didn't show in your video, at least on camera, you didn't stop and look closely at the structure of the rock. Did you bother to, at least for yourself, have a close examination of that?
I didn't at the time. I was with 2 others, so we were kind of moving along fast, and so I did not have. No, I didn't do that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you grabbed a sample of the rock, because that would be the best thing to do. Then you could just microscope it and see if it's actually rock or what. It would have been
brilliant. Well, it's only an hour away, but I didn't do that.
I didn't grab a sample.
Yeah, it's a really good idea because I'm not convinced that. I'm definitely not convinced that geology is everything it's cracked up to be. I think that there's many holes in the theories because we just don't know so much. And we did, because no one was there when any of this was formed, and everything is just a guess, and we can't even really form this stuff ourselves the way it's been formed in nature. It's just, everything is just like, yep.
I really don't want to be rude to people who take this concept seriously, but I think it's a little bit ridiculous. And I've got, you know, various reasons, and we can talk about that. But I want to ask Mark. Mark, what do you think of this idea that this might be an actual stump of an actual tree? I know you've heard of this, and maybe even seen bits of that documentary that came out of Russia.
Yeah, I saw. I was looking at that actually this afternoon, and I saw that somebody was making comment that, oh, it must have been one hell of a tree to cut down, right? So I mean, just looking at, I'm on the Wikipedia page now, so I'm looking at what you're talking about with the Native American folklore, right? And, you know, they got the Sioux boys wandered far from the village when the Mato bear, and there's just so much irregularities about the myth of it, that what is the true story of it? Could it be a tree? I mean, can you touch it? Can you feel it? It looks damn well like a giant tree stump, but who chopped it down? You know, that would have taken Close Encounters of the Third Kind. One of those ships that came in there at the end there. That guy, if he had a skill chainsaw, he would have been able to chop that down. That big UFO. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, Aaron, you're there. It's one of the most. This should be one of the 7 wonders of the world. Really, it really should be.
Well, to be honest with you,
it does look like a giant tree stump for sure, and then it looks like it's got a root system.
Because I know of this documentary and I know of this concept, and because I know of Charles Kos, while I hiked, there's a hiking trail that goes just right around the base, and they also let climbers scale this thing every day.
That's what they say, yeah.
So as we took the hike, we walked up, it's about 1.5 miles to go all the way around the base, and you can see it from all angles, and you can see the rock debris that falls down. And I was thinking of Charles, and I made a video following my path all the way around, and I stopped to look at a very close examination of the interior composition of these rock boulders that had fallen down and are right there on the path. Most of them were very old, been there long enough that the outer exterior is completely, almost entirely covered with lichen, so you can't really see. But then there are a few that have been blasted apart and a couple that have been broken, and you can see the interior structure. And if you'd like, I'll go ahead and do it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Because I think it's pretty interesting that what I found is that it really looks like granite. And you let me know if I'm presenting to everybody. Let me see. We also took a trip through Badlands, and I wanted to show Charles at least an image or two regarding the hanging rock that he visited. And pardon me, where did this video go? Okay, it was down here, down here, down here. Hike around the mountain. Okay, my timestamp here is 11 minutes 35. Double, come on, open up. Okay, let me jump forward here. 11 minutes. 7. Repairs on the climbing. 11. Really see the composition. Here we go. Roy, move it. Move it. Move your ass. Okay, so here you go. This looks like granite on the inside. This is a giant boulder. Let me maybe just kill this sound, and then I'll comment without. As you can see, the inside of this. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
Wait, so you can hear me right now?
Yeah. Oh, you can't hear us when you do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't.
Just mute that video you're playing.
Honestly, I can't. I don't see a mute button here. This is
Anyway, you're louder than that, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, anyway, you can see that the interior composition has what looks like a white aggregate. It's very granite looking. I didn't notice anywhere on this monument or anywhere on the rocks and boulders that had fallen down. Nowhere did I see anything that resembled a grain pattern or what would be, forgive me, I don't know the technical name, but the tubules that run through a tree that allow nutrients and water to flow up from the roots. So there is no sign, any kind, anywhere, outside or inside, with broken rocks outside of the monument. Nowhere did I see anything that would indicate any kind of grain pattern of that nature. And what I did see was stuff that really looked like granite, or actually kind of a geopolymer. Let me pause right there. This, go away. Back up just a second. Let me walk up to this next rock one more time, because this other rock that had broken apart had a big giant section on the inside. Here we go. If you see down low, you can see that there's two colors. There's a brown color on the outside, and it doesn't show up on the video, but it actually looks melted. It looks vitrified. And then down below, you can see where it's stripping off and scaling in layers.
Wow.
Completely different. See, this inside of this giant boulder doesn't look like the rest of it, and in a moment I'll show you the very edge, which looks like it was liquid, and there are layers of cooling of different composition that at first glance you might think a geopolymer, but given the size and where it is and what it is, there's no reason for that to be the case. So the only other logical explanation I can think of, and here's the outer edge, is that it cooled. They had an outer shell that had cooled first, and the inner portion took longer to cool. There's a little bit of lichen in the corner. That's why it's so dark.
Nice.
But it's sort of gray, and then this interior is kind of brown. And this surface you're looking at right here, with the naked eye, just looks drippy. On a tiny scale, like little drips and drops that maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And here's more scaling in layers. Now here's the outside, is almost entirely covered in lichen, and here's the edge I was talking about. You see, and I point to it right there. And there's another layer that's kind of grayer, and then the whole interior is a different color and somewhat appearing to be a different composition. This is for you, Charles. It looks like it cooled in layers. Here's a spot where they drilled. This is the pathway. Very likely they blasted a boulder for the pathway. And this is a good close-up on the inside of this rock. And clearly it looks like granite. There's nothing in here that would indicate that it was any living thing. It looks like concrete or geopolymer or granite, and the white particles, they're crystal in nature, similar to mica. They have shiny surfaces and they're flaky.
One thing that I was thinking while you were discussing that there, Aaron, what if this actually is an artificial construct, and that is geopolymer?
Well, that's a hell of a lot of it.
Yeah, but, you know, these people that used to be here built some mighty amazing things with a hell of a lot of geopolymer. I'm just saying, could that be? Has anybody done any ground penetrating radar through that thing? See if it's hollow or...
And by the way, Charles, last time we spoke, I had mentioned the red granite wall inside the Holy of Holies, and there was a picture that I couldn't find. I wanted to show you. I found that picture.
Right.
We'll talk about that in a moment, because I did find that picture and wanted to show you that if you haven't seen it. It also has a brick-like internal structure that's polygonal bricks on the inside of this wall with an exterior layer about 1 inch or so thick of red granite. It's amazing.
Nice. Nice. So that was so fascinating. I'm coming for a double. Okay, that's better. Now, yeah, well, definitely, Devil's Tower looks to me it's totally crystalline, and you can see straight away it's like Giant's Causeway.
Sure.
And yeah, I think if there are things preserved, things from the past preserved as rocks, then you would only see imprints of life. I don't know if you would see life itself, because some people were making comments that, you know, the rocks could be DNA tested and all this. I'm a bit skeptical about that personally. I think the rocks, yeah, the rocks would have just totally replaced it. You know, it's obviously all rock, even hanging rock. It's all rock. But there's something to this. There's something going on. So if you look at similarities between rock and life, I mean, it's just so weird. I mean, yeah, and even on the one hand, Devil's Tower itself, it looks like a giant tree, but obviously it's not. No one had a chainsaw that big, you know, it's ridiculous. But there is this recurring...
Barring some strange out there technology, perhaps a huge laser, I mean, you know, your mind goes crazy trying to figure out how it could have happened.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So that documentary, the one you were mentioning on your video, Charles, there's no trees on Earth. Isn't that there's no trees on flat Earth? Was that what you're thinking of?
That could have been the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
I think you said planet Earth, and I think it was flat. It was a flat Earth one.
Oh, really?
It's ultimately a flat Earth video.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ultimately, yeah. Okay.
But hey, just for fun, look over on the very left side, on the upper left corner, the very last bit of rock. You can see a couple of climbers standing there before I move forward.
Wow.
To give you an idea of scale for the size of these hexagonal blocks.
Big.
Can you see the guys there?
Yeah.
Yep.
It says, Aaron, it says that 400,000 people have climbed the rock, and they climb it in traditional rock climbing gear.
Yep, there
So
must have been 20 people on it this day that we walked around it. You see groups of 3, 4, 5, 6 people at a time. There's a couple more guys right there.
Allison asked if there are any fossils there.
This land in South Dakota is absolutely littered with fossils. There's fossil museums and dinosaur museums all over the place. I've got some other video where we visited a petrified forest, and it was a little museum, and as you went through, before you went outside to see all the petrified tree logs and stumps that they had found, there's a darkened area. It's almost like walking through a haunted house, where they turn the light on for a minute and they turn it off for a minute, and they have a black light, and on the wall are all these different minerals that have been found that are fluorescent, and they're amazing, bright red, bright yellow, bright purple, amazing stuff.
Yep, awesome.
And yes, there are tons and tons of fossils around here, tons of them. So, and by the way, just down the road is also Badlands, an area known as Badlands, South Dakota. I've got some video of that, and it looks like the land of the lost. It looks like you should see dinosaurs running around.
So I don't know if anyone mentioned this. How old are they saying this Devil's Tower is?
Honestly, I don't know.
They're saying...
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, they're saying it's like millions of years old. Like, that's what the Wikipedia is saying, that it's been around, you know, for 225 to 195 million. That's what they're saying. Yeah. In the Triassic period.
Well, they're using carbon dating, and I don't even trust carbon dating. It's a guess.
I trust carbon dating like I trust a grenade or a bomb going off in a London. What do they call it? The undercarriage? What's it called? So, you know what, though? Here's July 4th. What is it? July 4th, 1893. William Rogers and Wilford Ripley. Ripley's, believe it or not, Willard Ripley. Their first descent was on July 4th, 1893. So let's go back and look at some of those dates in the calculator, shall we? So the first descent was on July 4th, 1893. But they're saying it's 225 million years old. Okay.
The thing that always puzzles me about our history and all that is that we've switched the calendar system.
Yes.
We went from Julian to Gregorian, didn't we?
That's right.
That's right.
And I mean, nothing is really what date it really is now, is
And
it?
that's right. And the
Yeah.
Julian calendar is different than the Hebrew calendar, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and the Mayan calendar was different from, so it's like, well, what are we, are we really celebrating Christmas, or are we on actually Halloween? Who knows, right?
Well, no, Christmas is supposed to be 9/11. 9/11 is biblically
9/11, yeah, I heard
supposed
that.
to be actually Christ's birthday.
Well,
according to the
Hey,
real-
and I
according
did.
to some people,
That makes sense, though, it does.
but well, hold on. Here's my thought about that birthday. Okay, the Romans have been collecting taxes in April around the 15th for millennia,
Yeah.
and they were on their way to Bethlehem to pay the taxes. So, was he born in early April?
And crucified on 9/11? Because it was a sacrificial day, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I'm thinking that's probably more probable based on.
I don't know.
based
Anyway,
on-
we're getting too much of a tangent. Too much of a tangent.
Yes, we are. Okay.
Sorry to steer you off topic.
Okay, so there's something else I wanted to show Charles, and I also wanted to show those people who think this is a tree. And it's coming up here in just, let me see, 1539. In just a second, I think this is it right here. Here it is, right about there. I might have to zoom back in. If you see the very top, maybe about the top 15%, there's a line that goes horizontally all the way across this thing where it looks more rubble-like on the top. In other words, the hexagonal columns stop becoming quite so hexagonal. They start to meld together in some places, and the top portion has more horizontal cracking and fissures that occur than are seen in the lower portions of the crystals. So again, to me, that would lend to the idea that it was a column of liquid magma that cooled. The top portion cooled first, and it was more bubbly and reacting with the air and the oxygen, not quite as stable. And once it cooled, it becomes a thermal barrier, and the rest of the liquid magma below had much more time to cool and form the crystal structures.
Absolutely.
What do we think? Thoughts, anybody?
I think that works. That
It probably
sounds
is an
like-
ancient volcano. I mean,
Yeah.
And right here,
Well,
I
they're
think is
calling it a volcano plug, right? They're saying it could be a volcano plug.
right there.
yeah.
Now, right there, you can clearly see a horizontal area. Almost, it's not perfectly straight line, but you can see the top 10 or so percent stops becoming so fractured, and then it's these perfect hexagonal, angular, columns.
Yep.
So without a better explanation, I'm going to go back to the magma theory.
Well, it definitely looks like a volcano, and
Yeah.
I noticed that yesterday as well. Just looking at the photo, it's pretty clear that it was a pretty clean mix until you get up to that top portion, and then suddenly it just peters out because it's mixing with the outside world, with the air. It's not forming into proper crystals, and you can see quite clearly. Yeah.
Yep. By the way, Charles, I wanted to ask you about the hanging rock thing. I think I mentioned this somewhere to you, but did you notice that in at least one of the pictures that you had at the top, it looked like the cart trails in,
Yes.
With the ruts and the stone,
yes, that's what it looked like to me.
those cart trails.
Those cart
It
trails.
could
There were
be.
two parallel lines.
I looked at that photo again. I wasn't sure if it was cart trails or whether it was just fissures between the rocks. Another thing I'm not sure about, that the top of Hanging Rock, it's flat. Okay, it's flat like a pancake. And I don't know why it's flat, whether they did that for the tourists to even it out with machines. If so, it would have been a long time ago, because Hanging Rock, it's been a tourist location for over 100 years, well over 100 years, because it's near Melbourne, only 1 hour drive. So I don't know what caused that. The problem is there's been too much man interference at that location. So yeah, I just don't know.
All right, there's a really good look at the line with it between the top and the bottom where the horizontal cracks sort of just stop. It goes all the way around the whole mountain.
Yep. Yep.
And you can see up here that the columns, in some places, they meld together and two become one as it approaches the top of this thing.
Yep. Sure do.
And you can also see an extreme amount of weathering on the top portion, rounding of some of those rock, stone, cracks, very rounded, almost look river rock. Extreme amount of weather to make that happen.
Aaron, do they have? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it just rain erosion? Like, that's what we're looking at, right?
Well, there's a pretty good amount of wind around here. It's on and off. Now, I don't know about rain erosion lately because this thing is supposed to be, I don't know, 1 million or a couple of million years old. But around here lately, it's pretty dry. In fact, the campground has been watering almost every day up until last night when it rained all night last night and almost all day today. So the weather turned crappy today. And I'm just glad you guys had a chance to look at the monument over my shoulder.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, do they have warning signs around the bottom about watching out for falling debris? I guess they would.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a couple of those rocks up there, they look like.
There are several that are really ready to go.
Yeah.
And they're way up there, and they would literally roll down the debris pile right onto the path of people walking around it. Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so one other thing I wanted to show Charles was an image from the Badlands. Here's just a quick picture, and I'll show you a couple of others. I want you to notice how sharp the points are. Now, this is very soft soil, and in a couple of places it's like needle sharp. I mean, there's one right there. And in some places, it's absolutely needle sharp. There's a decent one, a couple of them ahead right there. And I've got a video that's got one that is absolutely as sharp as can be. Now, I remember as a child noticing a dirt pile near my house. And this pile of dirt, it was just loose, soft dirt. And there's the image. Look at how sharp that is. Anyway, just regular brown soil, had some pebbles and stones in it. And then it would rain, and the rain would erode the pile. And what would happen was the very soft soil would wash away, and wherever a pebble was resting, it would stay there. The rain would wash away the soil in a column several inches tall, because the rain wasn't disturbing the soil, and so it would erode away, straight down, much like you see in this image. So these points, I would suggest, and I haven't climbed up and verified this, but I would suggest that there's a stone at the very tip of that thing preventing the rain from actually damaging the soft soil underneath.
Probably. Yeah, they refer to those as mesas, and they sort of cap off rocks, and you see them across deserts. The face on Mars was one of them, and it's just a layer of hard, sort of igneous, almost black rock, and it prevents erosion underneath, and yeah, it's quite interesting.
And back to the video that you made, Charles, I also had the same opinion, that I didn't think that trees would grow that close together. And of course, I'm not a arborist or a horticulturist, and maybe there are mangrove trees or something that does grow that close together, but it just was hard for me to swallow that one.
It's true. There's so many different ways to interpret it as well. To me, it looked like for somehow the artifacts of life, whether it was from some catastrophe or something. But then again, who knows? Because as we can see from Devil's Tower, you know, rocks can look like life, like it can look like a tree stump, even though it's not.
Well, a lot of life requires crystals of various kinds, salt being one that most people would recognize. A lot of the other minerals that the body and biology requires for life are crystalline in nature as well, including iron. And the various metals that the body requires, magnesium, things like that, right? These are all crystalline structures, and they're literally required because without them, you're going to get sick and die.
Absolutely. Our bones are crystal as well. I mean, our bones are metalloid, a mixture of calcium and silicon, a really dense, lightweight structure, which is just super strong. You know, it's just unbelievable what the body can do. And yeah, we are really minerals. I sometimes refer to ourselves as we're like biocrystals in nature.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
dynamic crystals.
Yep, absolutely. And then yet we definitely have a direct connection with crystals, which connects us literally with the rocks, right? I mean, Native Americans have legends saying that the rocks are alive and everything's alive, and the Buddhists say that we're connected with everything, and we literally are. And you look inside your own pineal gland. If you want to learn about it and life and your connection to the universe, we have this thing called a pineal gland, right? Currently being calcified by fluoride, which is a crystallized calcium. So as Charles was saying, that the bone structure is crystal, calcium is a crystal, yes?
Well, calcium itself is a metal, but in the bones, it's sort of in a crystalline setup in combination with other.
Well, it's calcium carbonate. It's basically limestone.
Yeah, pretty much.
It doesn't have. It's got organic properties, Aaron. Calcium carbonate, limestone.
Yep.
Like the coral reefs, right?
Oh, well, I was really only just trying to recognize that as a living biological thing, I have yet some physical connection to a non-biological thing that we call rocks, the minerals.
Right.
So not only are we connected to all life, we literally are connected to all things. Without certain minerals, many of these minerals that are all under our feet, metals and other minerals, they're crystalline structure. We got to have them.
They do harness electrical charge, so there is energy everywhere. Right?
It's a very interesting point, Aaron, because you know, Aristotle, he segregated life into three kingdoms: animal, vegetable, and mineral. And he actually believed that if you took gold out of a mine, it would grow back. So they had different ways of thinking back then about how everything worked. And so there's one Asian philosophy as well, I can't remember what it is, which holds that everything is basically alive. So, for example, if and you have to treat everything as if it's someone else. For example, let's say your computer's malfunctioning. You would then be nice to it, and it would start working. You know, according to that philosophy, and some people swear by it. You know, so
well, I could talk on that for at least a half an hour. First of all, there was a movie, Poltergeist, where that little old lady. No, it's Poltergeist episode 2, where they had the Indian shaman guy, and you remember the guy was having trouble with his car, right? He was driving a Griswold family truckster, one of those station wagons.
Yeah.
And the Indian guy walked out there and he prayed over the car and he talked to the car and the car worked.
Yeah.
And then there's been experiments where people have been able to use their mental focus to have a direct effect with computerized random number generators.
Yes,
So
I've
we
heard about that.
We absolutely are connected to everything.
Everything, yeah. Well, that's why the Hopi Indians believe we're all just one big thing, you know.
Consciousness creates the now.
But speaking of not being unsure about everything, Charles, about history. You were mentioning in your video there, filter of the past.
Well, that's right. The paradigms, basically, the paradigms. The thing is, if you want to publish anything in an academic journal, you not only have to repeat 99% of what has been done before, you're only allowed to change 1%, but you have to actually use the same methods as the people who have come before you, or you have an uphill struggle just to try to prove to them that your methods are actually valid. I mean, when I was doing my PhD about Robin Hood, I was actually comparing chronicled record, which is what the monks were writing down, stories the monks wrote down, with later ballads. And they said I couldn't do that because no one does that, because it's comparing two different traditions, a Latin monk tradition and an oral tradition. And I actually had to convince them that the monks were writing down popular stories from an oral tradition. And I managed to get that through because I found some quote from some scholar saying that one of the monks actually wrote down stories from the man in the street. And when I showed them that, that convinced them. Otherwise, my PhD would have been held up. Yeah. I mean, you really have to fight even for the methods you're using. And I'm sure that applies to all the sciences.
So listen, I'm glad you brought that up because it was one of the questions that on my notes, and it's one of the questions that not only my wife, but many of my friends and subscribers who have watched our previous interview have asked me about. Some people, and myself included, have a hard time understanding that there is such a thing as a PhD in Robin Hood. Can you just go over that? Literally,
yeah, sure.
Help us laymen understand this concept?
Sure.
I mean, is that an actual thing for real?
It's for real.
In Robin Hood.
Was it
not a PhD in literature? And
was it just your thesis that was based on Robin Hood, or was it an actual?
Well, help us out here.
Okay, it was a PhD in history, in medieval history, and I had to cover politics, literature, but basically the subject was Robin Hood, so I was studying Robin Hood, and when I tell people, listen, that's right, that's the reaction. Yeah,
it's just the way you said it. You said I got a PhD in Robin Hood, and we're like,
right.
There's an actual PhD for that.
Well, it was.
Well, yeah. I knew better. I had several people mention that, and I'd say no, his degree is in history.
Yeah, that's what your thesis was based on Robin
Hood. Okay.
CBC here in Canada today they've got a I guess it's an investigative report, and they were talking about how they went online to several universities and the websites apparently in some place in Pakistan, and they were able to pay $1,500 for genuine PhD certificates and degrees, and they got their numbers, they got all their stats, and then for $1,500 they got a couple, and they put them in nice frames, and they were showing them on their desk today, and I guess the
but interview them about the subject, and they won't be able to respond like Charles.
No, Charles, come on. I'm just joking, but yeah, it's. It's serious. Like, holy cow! Like, you can get a PhD in anything these days. I'm going to get a PhD in settling
conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and then lose my channel the next day. Yeah.
Hey, somebody better give me mine. I got it.
Yours is art, conspiracy of art.
The art of conspiracy.
Nice.
That's right. My art channel.
I like that one.
Yeah,
all right, well, in case you guys can't tell, I am a little chilly out here. My battery's getting low, so in a few minutes, I'm going to turn my microphone and my speaker and my camera off. I'm going to go inside the RV and complete the show. But for now, I'll hang as long as I can.
So, Greatest Potential says, if the Devil's Tower was a mountain, it would be shaped like a mountain, except it's not. It's shaped like a tree.
Well, I don't care what it's shaped like.
Yeah,
That's
really.
Hey, look, let's be real. If this was really a giant tree, where are the others?
Yeah, I know.
Where is the evidence that there is one other just like it? Now, I know Giant's Causeway in Ireland, it's not sticking up out of the ground. It does have the same hexagonal, pattern, and they know by examining the stone that it was basalt or some kind of, ancient lava cooled, right? So, Come on, where are the others? If there were trees this big all over the earth, where are the other stumps? And if you watch that ridiculous documentary, they eventually go into nearer the end, they start talking about how plateaus are giant trees and mountains also are giant broken trees. Really, where are the remnants? I don't get it. It's just, sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Can I bring up another?
No, like.
I want to bring up another place. Okay, it's interesting because it's much smaller than the Devil's Tower. But I'm going to show you a place I used to go to as a child, and it's called Devil's Postpile. And here's a good one. And what's interesting is you'll notice it has the same hexagonal stuff going on, but it's much smaller. It's like a miniature Devil's Tower.
Yeah.
Can you see all that?
I've been to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hang on. Ian, you want to highlight her so she's, there you go. Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting photos there, Amy, for sure.
Yeah, let me get another one up.
Going on smaller scale.
Yeah.
Now, Charles will probably know the area that I'm talking about, and I can't remember. I think it might be Polynesian. There's a place where there's a whole city on the edge of the ocean, constructed out of these long hexagonal pieces of basalt.
Nan Madol.
Thank you. So it's the same thing. They had a similar area nearby where they were finding and able to chip away and pry away these pieces and use them and stack them and build with them.
Yep.
Well, that's right. I mean, essentially, it is all cooled lava, and when it cools, that's when it suddenly turns into a crystal. I used to do the same thing in the lab because I did some chemistry as well. And to make a crystal, you essentially you drop the pressure, or you cool something, and suddenly crystals will appear just spontaneously. So this is all a product of the cooling of lava, basically.
Right.
You know, you brought up earlier that the legend that gold would be replaced after it was mined, and I'm not sure if you're familiar, not everybody is, of a such thing called crystalline gold.
No.
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 Amy,
Actually,
you're already if you guys haven't seen this, and for anyone listening and who is in one of those people like me who likes to get into gold, I do prospecting and stuff like that, and I've been to Alaska and worked an active gold mine. It's fun. Wow. There's actually it's called crystalline gold. It grows. I swear it is literally grows like a crystal.
Wow. Well,
Are you Googling it, Amy? I thought you were screen sharing.
Yeah, I'm going to screen share it.
Yeah, you guys got better internet than me. It's better for you to do it.
I was done screen sharing, I thought, because we'd moved on.
I'm lucky to still be here. I'm lucky to still be here right now.
Every rock, if you give it the feedstock and the conditions, it should be able to grow like a crystal. That's just the way it is, yeah. But that's wow.
Oh, that's lovely.
There's better pictures. Keep going, Ian. Yeah, that's cool. There are some pictures that are without a doubt. They look like freaking snowflakes. They grow absolutely like crystal.
That's amazing. So the gold has crystallized, and then after it's crystallized, the liquid quartz has been, or it's grown on the surface of the quartz. Yeah.
Not a very good picture.
Go back to the images page with all those options.
On top?
This is almost like the difference between Yonaguni and regular rock. You know,
yeah, I was going to bring up. Yeah, I was going to bring up Yonaguni because I really think that your theory on Yonaguni is spectacular.
Thanks.
Not, eh? Isn't that beautiful?
Yes, yes, yes. It's pretty amazing.
That's almost like coral or a brain, like a neural network. The way that one's grown, that's amazing. Yeah.
Almost looks like a pot bud right here. I guess I know where my mind's at. That's cool. So, Aaron, is there any sort of like, what do they call those things where you can read the story? They've got them set up, historical sites where you can actually read about it. What do they call those things? I can't remember.
I don't know. You're talking about the placards?
Placard. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Is there a placard that says where they got the name? Like, do we know where they got this name from?
I haven't seen anything in the pamphlets and literature and stuff that I've looked at so far. So I have to say I just haven't seen it. I'm certain that there's probably, like Charles was saying, that there are multiple Native American legends depending on the tribe you talk to.
Because I'm just wondering why it's Devil's Tower. What was the other one called, Amy? Devil's
Postpile.
And then the one in Ireland is Devil's Causeway.
Yeah, you see, there's something strange here. Like this is,
Yes.
it's almost like it's something they know that we don't know, and that goes back to what I was going to mention as well to you, Charles, as you mentioned the secret technologies and stuff, advanced technologies that was once here and is no longer here.
Well, it could be a bit of that. It's a mixture of things. For example, Aaron was showing stuff earlier, which could either be some ancient geopolymer, maybe some building on top of that mountain, and then the lava has covered it, or it's just crystals. It's just more crystals that have formed because it's formed underneath, and it's formed into regular shapes. Who knows about the technology? Well, there was definitely a lost super civilization, so we have to think that there was that possibility. But the other thing that's happening is, and this is responsible for the devil's name, I think, is that all these sites are haunted. And I think that's why they call it, oh, this is the devil's stuff. So there might have been some lights seen there, or there might have been some UFO type things happening there, some encounters, or it's just haunted full stop.
Well, I'm pretty sure there was, because they based the whole movie around that mountain, right? And
exactly. It had to
seem like there had to be some sort of connection to begin with for them to think of it. Like
exactly, and that's actually what made me compare Hanging Rock with Devil's Tower, because Hanging Rock is also kind of spooky and haunted, and they even made a movie about girls disappearing there. It was a totally fictional story, but the thing is, if you talk to people, they all think it's real, because firstly, the propaganda of the book was so good that they got everyone thinking that this actually happened, that girls disappeared there. But at the same time, people believe it because they know intrinsically that the whole area is haunted and weird.
I would just do anything I could to get there and experience it firsthand.
Anyway, Charles, here is the picture that I was mentioning earlier. This is red granite. This image was taken from the inside of the Holy of Holies in Egypt. This entire wall is made of red granite, and you can see that there are relief, either carvings or impressions. And in terms of a geopolymer, it would more likely be an impression. But here you can see a section that had cracked and fallen out, and on the inside we have a polygonal brick structure composing the wall itself.
Wow, that's amazing on so many different levels. For starters, let's assume that's just a repair. If that was a repair, who makes polygonal stuff? Basically, these were made in South America. So this is a link with South America, because we know about the tobacco mummies, the cocaine mummies, and King Solomon's mines. I think Solomon's mines, exactly.
That's right.
We're in America.
It comes from one place.
Exactly, and it always has. And to see that sort of polygonal stuff you know, at the Holy of Holies. It just shows a connection with Solomon.
Another link of a worldwide civilization.
Exactly. It's amazing. I mean, they were trading with America until about, I think, maybe 700 or 600 BC, because after that the orichalcum disappears, because, you know, they found this sort of red brass with, you know, zinc in it. Any brass has zinc in it, but if you look up the zinc sources are America. And when that trade declined, that entered legend, and people forgot about it. For some reason, people forgot about the existence of America, except in the Atlantis legend, where they seem to have called it the opposite continent. And there was a string of islands you could follow to get there. And the first one on your journey would have been Atlantis. So,
yeah. And I don't know. I tend to believe that they came wherever they came from to escape the deluge at Machu Picchu. Was it called what was it called again? The one that was hidden on the top of the mountain in Peru?
Machu Picchu.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
That's where I think they escaped the deluge that came along, and they lived through it.
The other thing about Machu Picchu, if you look at it, to me, I've walked around Ireland a lot, the countryside, looking at ruins. To me, that looks like almost the stuff you see in Ireland from Dark Ages times. It's just weird that the houses are built similar. The houses on those grain stores on the hills. To me, that looks like the old world, Machu Picchu, some of that architecture, but it obviously mixed with New World stuff. And the problem is people have been traveling there so much that it confuses the issue of trying to find out when the big civilization was, because there have been so many unrecorded contacts, or they've just entered legend because books are destroyed.
I saw a guy, his name is Klaus Donna.
Klaus Donna, yes.
Klaus Donna. And I was watching some of his videos, and he was showing these ancient artifacts that they found, and they're super highly, like, sophisticated. Complete core holes, like bore holes, drilled to precision circles. Tools that look like they were like either medical or dental tools made out of ludite, some sort of ludite. And they also showed this DNA disc with two sides to it, showing all these intermingling of DNA and stuff on this, carved on this disc, right? It was highly technically sculpted. We can't even replicate these things that they found, right? And this, to me, seems like what you were saying about the ancient knowledge and the ancient technologies that have been, you know, hidden on purpose, right? For either for power for the people who hold the knowledge, or B, for our own good, you know, like we don't know, right? So I kind of wanted to touch on that, but what do you think?
Well, that stuff, I don't know what disc you're referring to, but that there was definitely some knowledge that was recorded, and that something like that disc, it may not even be original. It may have been recarved from something else. It may be a copy of something else, because an artistic tradition sort of expands, I think, from one great artist, and all the students start copying, and then the students start copying.
That's true. That is true, and absolutely.
Exactly. I think something even like the Palenque astronaut, you know, that thing on King Pakal's sarcophagus, that you know, obviously it's not a rocket, but it is rocket-like. So that could even be,
there's something going up his nose. There's something that his foot, there's a pedal, and his hand is very clearly he's working some knobs and levers, and there's a damn pipe going up his nose. Well, unless it was a constant supply of cocaine, I don't know what else you could be.
Well, maybe some of that as well.
For a sec, Aaron. Let me share the screen, Aaron, for a minute.
Okay, all right. Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to show you this. This is Petra Jordan, and you can see by the finger. Hopefully, I'm still screen sharing. You can see this. You can see that they are perfectly spaced. These are carving marks that are very likely not hand carving marks. You just don't get that accuracy when you're chiseling away. Even with soft stone, you just don't get those perfect straight lines by doing it by hand, not at that scale. So I just wanted to point that out. This is inside Petra Jordan, so it looks like that was machine cut as well. And
wow.
Sorry, let me undo my screen. There we go. And then put that away, and you can have it. All right.
That did look machine cut, because the conventional way of that they say these things were cut is that people just ground them down with another stone, and another stone isn't going to give you that kind of thing. So that kind of look. So that's amazing. So at least they would have had metal to do that.
Well, you know, I wanted to at least talk to you a moment about this, Charles. Yeah, this Klaus Donna. This is a good. Oh, that's the rune stone, Ian. That's the one with all the like
a musical instrument.
Well, no. The circle, the disc is the one on both sides. It has the entire gestation period. There it is. You had it right there. Right there. There it is.
So this is what they found here. This is what I'm calling the DNA disc. Okay, and if you look closely, you'll see all these intermingling of DNA.
Well, I can see a sperm cell on the left.
Yeah, the other side shows the zygote, or the zygote.
Zygote.
And it shows the entire, and it shows the egg, the sperm. This stone here shows the entire gestation from sperm meeting egg to birth.
Now the arrow goes to the other side of the disc, right? You follow the path, right?
Yeah, let it play and show the other side.
Show the other side. There it is. Is that the other side? Oh, that's touchy as hell. I don't know if I can get it to the exact spot. That was the side we saw, or was that the other side?
I have some.
Yeah, I can't. Okay.
I have some really good high-res images that I could share and we can look at.
Yeah, I don't want to get this video.
So anyway, so Charles, Sacsayhuaman has an area out of the mountain that rock has been quarried. I think it's andesite, really hard stuff. There's a square boxy section carved out of the mountain where they say was a part of their quarry. That's a good image, Amy. And on the bottom, on the floor of this carved area, a strange, crosshatch pattern carved into the floor. Are you familiar?
No, I'm not with that. No.
With the image I'm talking about?
No.
I'll see if I can find it. Hopefully my Wi-Fi bandwidth. That's a really good image, Amy. That's the one side. Show us the other. There it is, right there. There's your male, there's your female, there's your sex. And follows it all the way around. Look at the outer rim, from the sperm to a little wiggly thing with arms. And then on the inner circle, you have this crazy looking thing that looks very alien in nature. And then you have a male and female version of the two of them. Yeah, right there.
There seems to be an arrow that is trying to, you've got this coming around here, going here with an arrow here. Now, I don't know.
Yeah.
Following it back, it just kind of ends at the edge of the screen. But
the other thing is these are Polynesian gods. Those whatever they are, those faces, those wide faces. You see those in New Zealand, made out of. Yeah. They were originally made of jade.
Right.
They're weird. I think they could even represent, the garden Buddhas, the Buddhas. You talk to people about these, and they think, oh, it's Buddha. But the thing is, Buddha spent his life fasting. He was skinny, and so this guy is actually the earlier Buddha, the giant. And to represent him as a giant, they make him all fat and that makes him cuter as well, I suppose. But I think these are more representations of that. And he is based on the fallen angel. He was in Sri Lanka. He was the fire god Mercury. And that could be him, or it could. But if because of those sperm cells as well, this could show the creation of the world, and with the fallen angel as one of the first gods being created through some holy union. I mean, that plate is amazing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I found it. And the Wi-Fi is holding up, so let me show you this.
Still with us, Mark?
Yep, I'm just I'm surfing.
Pipe up anytime, buddy.
I'm good. I'm looking at Ben Grimm from the Fantastic Four, Mr. Rock the Thing.
No, check out his work,
Look at this
though,
webpage.
Charles. I highly recommend you check out his work, Klaus Dona. D-O-N-A.
Donen.
Yeah,
So here we go.
D-O-N-A.
This is one of the quarry areas at Sacsayhuaman that, Charles, I suspect you're familiar with this image.
I made a video about that. Yeah, that's that's weird.
Now, we've talked a lot about, and you've talked an awful lot about geopolymers. However, when you find something like this, we have to certainly there's both. Obviously, in your last video, you talked about that there are labs all around the world right now that are making geopolymer stone of any kind. Is that right?
That's correct. Someone showed me a video the other day. Someone had actually made artificial marble. And
wow,
so
really?
Yeah, exactly. Or it is marble. It is very marble-like. So
I've worked with marble. I know the difference. It's a terribly different composition than most other stone.
Oh wow! So I mean, if you would leave the marble lying around, and then it becomes covered up over time, it can even change, and eventually it gets dug up, and people don't quite know what to make of it. I guess. But you're right. A civilization that is capable of geopolymer is going to have the cutting tools to cut anything. That's pretty clear, and lots of that stuff is, you can see it's cut. I think what's happened is the archaeologists have gone to one place and they've said, oh, look, you can see it's been cut, so therefore everything's been cut, end of story.
Yeah.
And they leave it at that, but they shouldn't.
Yeah. Some of these stone shapes are just astounding, to say the least, but some of them are obviously geopolymer, and some of them are obviously cut. I mean, look at that little thing right there. That tiny little piece that they had to fit in there, because apparently for some reason this wall had to be, I don't know, hermetically sealed or something.
There's an important clue there with the darkening. So either that's from people
touched it a lot,
touching it. You reckon?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably tourists going, "Oh my God, look!" and putting their finger on it.
I see.
We're like little monkeys. Have to touch stuff. I wish I could find the bottom floor that I was talking about. It has a crosshatch pattern carved into the floor of one of the quarries that came right out of the mountain, just like that image I showed you a moment ago. And I'm not prepared, but if I find it, I'll show it to you, and maybe I'll show it to you next time we talk. Hopefully I can find it. It's really amazing. It's perfect square patterns with maybe a 1-inch wide lines defining all the squares. And it's on all diagonal, no less. And the squares are maybe a foot or a 1.5 to 2 feet square. And it's extraordinary, and it's at the floor of this quarry hole that's in the mountain, just like that image I showed you a second ago. And maybe I'm confused. Maybe it's not Sacsayhuaman there. Maybe it's this one. I'm looking for. I want to see the floor of that thing. Where's that picture? God, I wish I had saved that.
Floors are always interesting because they can reveal a polygonal structure. And you see polygonal floors everywhere where you don't see polygonal walls all around the world. And I reckon that means there's an earlier structure and it's been changed. Borobudur, for example, a polygonal floor. And I think the Buddhists came around when India invaded and took over Java, and they put all these little miniature stupas on top, because I think one people couldn't have done all of it. And often I think archaeologists assume that one people did the whole thing, but that never happens. It's never been one people. I mean, it never happens. I mean, look at Cologne Cathedral. It took 800 years to build that. It was started, abandoned, and then it was restarted in the 19th century from what was left from the Middle Ages.
You know, I also want to point out, just for fun, see how Sacsayhuaman is spelt?
Yeah.
Sacsayhuman, almost.
That's right. That's right.
Sacsayhuman.
Sacsayhuman.
Hey, who does all this stuff? What's his name?
Who, the etymology guy? That's Cullen Smith does a lot of that.
No, there's a
Etymology.
guy. He talks about all the perverted names within the. But I wanted to, for the break here, I wanted to play Charles's latest video.
Okay.
About his own Devil's Tower in Australia.
Yeah, that's good.
And it runs for 12 minutes. So
okay.
I'll just take a pee break or whatever, have a stretch.
Okay.
I'm all for that.
Okay. All right, I'll stop screen sharing.
Is that okay, Charles, if I play your video on here?
Go for it. Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just going to get it set up. Just Okay, guys, so it runs for 12 minutes, so we'll just see you back.
There seems to be a specially designed deceit. Mysteries of the universe are really not only because of their quality, but also because of their quantity. There are just so many of them. Among them, Devil's Tower in the United States. So there's not a video about Devil's Tower. Devil's Tower is mysterious, strange. The prevailing view is that this is a volcanic cone, a volcanic plug. You can see the crystalline formation here. Apparently the rest was a type of sandstone, limestone. It's all eroded away for some reason. I don't know why. I guess it must have been very soft. And the harder igneous rock has remained. But then again, we don't know what it really is. It does look like a tree. And in this video, I'm going to show you Australia's version of Devil's Tower, at least Victoria's version. It's only an hour from Melbourne, and it is bizarre. And I want to challenge your views about how it really formed. Now, there is a viral video on YouTube called "There Are No Trees on Planet Earth," calling this a tree stump. I'm going to show you some things that could actually be tree stumps. Okay. Now, this is Giant's Causeway, and the ancient Irish actually believed that giants built this. Now, obviously, the crystalline quartz crystal is a hexagon much like this. There's a stacked quartz crystal, so we know what this is. These are volcanic columns. And again, this is just unbelievable. In Australia, we have this in Melbourne, Hanging Rock. There's a very old picture from the 1850s, and this place is spooky. Let me tell you, this place is quite spooky. And I visited this place. I'll show you some pictures. I'll show you some video clips. It's just awesome. But this place is huge in Australian mythology because of a book that was written 50 years ago, which was passed around in Australian schools. It was compulsory reading in some schools. They had a movie. And I'm talking about Picnic and Hanging Rock. And this was a popular place for picnickers in the 19th century. And there's an urban legend schoolgirls went here and they just became hypnotized by the landscape. They didn't want to leave, and then they vanished. That's the story. And if you read the novel, later on, the school teacher goes to look for them, and she vanishes as well. It's just totally mysterious and weird. Initially, one girl, Miranda, they just start chasing her because she goes off into the rocks. It's all weird, and everyone vanishes. It's just so strange. And the movie was quite interesting as well. And I have to testify, this must have been inspired by real life, because some of those places in Western Victoria, they have a hold on you. They're so mysterious, they're so weird. Some of those Aboriginal sites in the Ballarat Lake, that place can really have a hold on you. You feel like you want to stay there and become part of the landscape. I don't know if that's some sort of swirling gem and vortex underneath the ground. It's triggered all the volcanism that's causing that. But it's just weird. I guess the books must have been inspired by that. Again, Hanging Rock is on top of Hanging Rock. Unlike Devil's Tower, it's pretty easy to get to the top of Hanging Rock. It's really, well, anyway, look at this. This is, okay, I'm getting close to Hanging Rock. I've taken these photos. And this is what I want to show you. Are these, actually, what are these? Are these volcanic columns, or are they trees? Are they fossil? I'm starting to think that these are fossilized trees, and I'll start to show you why as we go on. Firstly, they're the same color as the trees in the foreground, but if they are trees, they're possibly an ancient, wider version, millions of years old. Trees don't exist on Earth anymore, and lots of them actually do look like wood, which is just bizarre. And I'm thinking, what are the mechanisms? First, I thought, are these nuked skyscrapers or something? I mean, what's going on? Was there a catastrophe here? Did the volcanism actually fossilize something? Were these caked in? Were these trees which were caked in a sort of volcanic ash and then fossilized like the bodies of Pompeii that become a bit bigger and caked in rock? I mean, anyway, so I'm walking up now to the top of Hanging Rock, and you see some of this stuff. It's bizarre. You know, they even got kind of grain in them. You know, it's like a wood grain. It's a bit weird. So I want to challenge your views, because this thing is weird. Okay, I'm getting up to the top, and you see the landscape, just beautiful, just really beautiful. It was trolley, and you look at some of that stuff in the background. This is weird. Now, I want you to look at some of this. Just look at this. It is almost like these are living trees.
It almost looks like a tree.
Look at the grain. It's just so strange. And I'm just gonna keep flicking through. I mean, they look like this rock here has a null, look like a branch that's been lopped off, just like this actual branch in the foreground. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I'm even going to get to a statue of something that looks like a giant, which is just bizarre. It's totally bizarre. They even got this. I just don't know what's going on. Are we just looking at volcanism? Are we looking at a fossilized forest? Are we looking at nuked artifacts from ancient times, which have been fossilized, become fossilized somehow? I'm starting to think this was an uplifted forest, uplifted by a volcano, and perhaps in a nearby volcano, then fossilized, and this became a volcano from underneath, and then this was coated in rock after it was already semi-fossilized, semi-buried. That's preserved the look of tree stumps. I mean, this place is just unbelievable. It's just, that's beautiful. I have to say, it's really beautiful. Now we're ascending upwards towards the Hanging Rock, and that's one of them, but that's not it. So that's the Hanging Rock basically right there, and it's above me, but there's actually a big one. There we go. So the Hanging Rock, and it's suspended above above the pathway, so it's a bit weird. I guess it's this large one here, and it's quite weird. It's quite interesting. And then you can actually get on top. So you don't need any climbing equipment or anything. You just go to the top of this thing, and there it is. It's just spectacular. It's just beautiful. And yeah, and you wonder, like, I was thinking, am I in a big tree stump? And the answer is no idea, because this challenges, everything that I thought I knew about these formations. It's just weird. In the movie, the girls walk around these rocks and they just disappear. They're chasing each other. They vanish. The place is strange. It's but also amazing. And then there's that thing. You see that? I don't know what that is. It doesn't look like a crocodile. You see? So, the ancient inhabitants. And the view is amazing. You can see much of Victoria. It's just a beautiful look. These teeth, I really don't know what to think of this. This is odd. This is really odd.
Looks like the mouth of a crocodile.
Okay. Look at this thing here. I'm not sure if that's a statue of a giant or not. I thought that was bizarre. It looks less like a giant from the outside. That's it. I don't know if it's a statue or what it is. And look, these are not trees, these are rocks. But they look like trees, you see. Seriously, that is a rock. It looks just like a tree. Unbelievable. Okay, let's check the video. So I made a rock. Behind me there seems to be a statue of a giant insect, and that is just unbelievable. Hello, Marcella. And look at that giant. That's incredible. It looks like a bird or a giant or something. Now, it might not be a giant because, as you can see, many rocks behind me. Very huge rocks, especially back there. Look at that thing all the way. This is spectacular. These are called the vampire cliffs, and up behind me there seems to be a big hanging rock. And these cliffs are absolutely amazing. And some of these bizarre formations of 3D look like they're giant bones. And when I first came here, I thought I'm standing inside a giant tree stump. And in fact, if you look where I'm standing now, I absolutely realize this tree stump is sort of just all around us and it's sort of rotted away in ancient times. Is this a giant tree? And I don't know, some of the things, if you look over there, we see sort of hollow areas and it's a bit different where tissue could have been if this was flesh and blood, but who knows what it was, just bones stacked together or something. It also looks like a huge eroded city. It looks even more spectacular from the bottom. It's just unbelievable. And yes, this site's amazing. It could be lots of trees joined up or an ancient forest or something, but I don't know what this is. This is just bizarre, everything. Just this place. I'm going to see a little area and hanging up. So beautiful.
I thought that was interesting. So, hello.
Well, I'll give you this, Charles. You definitely have a brain that thinks outside the box.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it just looks like trees, or and the sculpture. It almost looks like a sculpture.
Well, the thing is, when I was there, that was filmed about the beginning of this year, and at the time, my channel was pretty small, and I was watching the mud fossils videos, and I was quite interested in that. And I've since become a bit less interested in that. But when I was there, I was thinking, it looks so biological, you know, the way those rocks are formed. And the conventional idea is they are volcanic columns, just the same as the volcanic columns at Devil's Tower. I guess the Devil's Tower ones are just more pure.
Can I interject something here?
Yep.
Just really quick. Ian, could you please unhighlight Aaron? Everybody got to see a teeny weeny version of the thing down in your... Yeah.
You could have said something, Amy. You could have interrupted.
Well,
I should have pulled it out. I didn't know.
I thought he
I
had
had it on the
left.
full screen, right?
Yeah, I thought he had left. So...
Well, okay, look, you guys, let's just move forward here. Highlight me again because I'm going to screen share.
Okay.
I found the image I was looking for. It's not Sacsayhuaman. It's Oleante Tombo. And here it is, Charles. Look at this. This is the floor of a section of mountain that had been quarried. If you've never seen this, have a gander.
Wow. But that looks like it's been done with a machine.
No doubt. I mean, why would it even be there unless it was some artifact of a machine cut?
That's amazing. Yeah, well, exactly.
There's no rhyme or reason why, if a human being was carving this thing out of the mountain, maybe they were making a royal balcony for the games, you know, for something, you know, where the priests and the royalty would sit and watch a festival or something. Why? It's actually not even flat. It's not even perfectly flat and level, if I understand correctly.
Wow. And some of those cuts, in fact, are they going up the wall as well? I guess they would.
A little bit in places, yeah.
I was using my masonry cutter this week. I made marks like that, cutting some concrete out.
Awesome.
Skilled chainsaw. concrete tip. That looks man-made. Holy cow, that's crazy.
I can pretty much guarantee that ain't natural.
Well, the thing is because that is man-made and obviously it's done with a machine, does that mean that area dates to perhaps the time of Pumapunku when they were doing that other very high-tech stuff in Bolivia as well? And that shows that the Pumapunku people were sort of in control of this Inca area in Peru as well. So we could maybe expect to find, if we started digging, which they're not going to do, but if they started digging underneath all these Inca things, they're going to find maybe Pumapunku-like machine-cut rocks.
Well, Charles, we're talking about Machu Picchu. It looks like it's the Nazca lines too, doesn't it? Speaking of Peru there. That looks like, how did they get those Nazca lines? The same type of thing, right?
Well, exactly. And the Nazca lines themselves, because they can only be seen from the sky, so either they had hot air balloons of some sort, which were very primitive, or they were replacing earlier landmarks, and it had become a religious tradition to paint these lines in the desert. This was von Daniken's idea and as you go back in time, they would have been more and more sophisticated, and they would have been actual aerial marks that you could have seen from the air with sophisticated flying technology. But if so, we're talking tens and tens of thousands of years ago, because that's why they're not digging this. They're not exactly digging this up, are they? So it must have been a really long time ago.
Yep.
And that's the thing. Yep. Go for it.
I was just going to say there's a fair amount of evidence that a lot of stuff that gets found gets lost again. So, you know,
at
there
the
may be
Smithsonian
things that got found and the word never got out. So we don't know how much they actually have found.
That's exactly right.
At the ice, the tip of the iceberg sort of thing. We hear about these few things, but then there's probably a whole lot more we've never heard of.
Exactly, and even people like Robert Temple, famous for the Cirrus Mystery, he says that what he actually does, he actually tries to acquire the libraries of dead archaeologists to buy them, to find this stuff out, and he goes to the really early books on Egypt to find out the truth, because what we're getting is highly sanitized, and we're only getting a little bit. And what they found there is not what we're getting. And I can even talk about the Egyptian labyrinth. I was reading about this, and this had about 3,000 rooms. It seems to have been a type of high-tech nuclear-proof bunker system, and Herodotus said this far exceeds in quality of workmanship the pyramids. And he said it was the best wonder of the world, but you can't find it anywhere. It doesn't seem to exist, or they looked in the wrong place. A guy called Lepsius in the 1850s, a Prussian archaeologist, he went to a site next to Lake Moeris, and he said, "Oh, I found the labyrinth." But the thing is, there's actually nothing there that's labyrinthine. He just found a few blocks. There was a very badly built mud brick pyramid nearby, and apparently there was a mud brick pyramid next to the labyrinth, and he assumed that was the labyrinth. And ever since then, people have been saying that's the labyrinth, but it's not the labyrinth. That's the thing. It's nothing like what Herodotus describes. So, and apparently it was the city of crocodiles, but there were lots of cities of crocodiles around Egypt. So they haven't found the labyrinth. It's somewhere in Egypt. It could be left over from the super civilization. It could be similar to what you see at Pumapunku. And when one day someone finds it, it's going to be absolutely amazing, because what Herodotus described is just unbelievable.
It could be that they have found it and hid it and buried it because it put too much data into the universe if it were to be released. I mean, that's conceivable, right?
Definitely.
I mean, it's not like we don't know that they try to hide things from us.
No, why would they do that?
Well, that's the thing.
I have no idea.
If you look at the Sphinx, there were lots of shafts nearby the Sphinx. There were lots of holes in the Sphinx in the early 20th century. And one day a French archaeologist arrived, and I can't remember the name, but his task was to make the site good for tourism. So he basically cemented up everything and made it smooth. So he cemented up all these passageways and entrances, and there were holes in the top, and you could get into the Sphinx's head. I'm not sure if you still can. There used to be a Wizard of Oz like king back in the day. I don't know the details, but he actually used to get inside the Sphinx. There's a staircase going up to the head, and he got in there and he would make pronouncements, prophecies, and this was his vehicle for convincing everyone that he was a god.
Wow.
So it's been used, definitely. It's been reused and reused and reused. But the Sphinx we're looking at today is full of cement. So I mean,
yeah, it is.
I wonder if it was specifically designed to be an acoustic resonator, or a priest could go inside and do specifically what you just said. Someone from inside could speak. It would seem to the dirty masses, the audience, that the Sphinx, the Sphinx, was giving a command. And the ancient Greeks, their amphitheaters were so well constructed acoustically that people in the top row are said to have been able to hear a whisper from the stage.
Yep.
Well, that's true. There would have been something like that. Well, that's the thing. He would have had to shout pretty loud, to make his voice heard. So there was something going on.
That's my point. Maybe not. Maybe it was constructed in such an acoustical way to amplify his voice.
Could be.
I mean, look, the Greeks, at least the Greeks for sure, had extremely well-developed knowledge of acoustics. Their amphitheaters, like I said, you could hear a whisper from the top row of the audience.
Yeah.
Was that?
I mean, if the inside tunnel of the Sphinx going out of the mouth where the voice would come from, if it was built the same way a trumpet or a tuba was constructed, acoustically, if it was perfect enough, then you could just speak calmly and the Sphinx would roar your voice to the audience.
Yep.
What's that photo on the screen?
You were talking about the Egyptian labyrinth, and so I just typed it in since I was screen sharing.
I wonder what that is.
I've accidentally opened another tab. There we go. So this is just what came up. I just did a search for Egyptian labyrinth while you were talking about it, and this is just one of the images that came up. And I chose it because you yourself do a lot of presentations using, hopefully you can still hear me. My Internet Explorer is giving me trouble. Often in your videos, you will show like old drawings of ancient sites before the sites had been, rearranged and pieces have been missing. So I like what you do in your videos, that you dig up these old hand-drawn images.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a good idea. I think what we're looking at here could be an artist's reconstruction made after the so-called discovery of the labyrinth, because I did read that the pyramid nearby it's sort of flattened out on top. Either it's been quarried or it was unfinished or something like that. But the thing is, the pyramid itself is mud brick, and it's much inferior in quality, I think, to the description. The description of the labyrinth, it actually would have been built by the same people that built the Giza pyramid, because it was apparently, Herodotus said, it was coated in white limestone, and he said the pieces are perfectly fit together. And that is exactly what the Great Pyramid would have been like. It would have been covered in this limestone, perfectly fit together, and Herodotus marveled at this. So he wasn't lying. That's a proper, decent description of what it would have been like. So it shows the Giza builders were not only putting the entire effort of Egypt into building the Great Pyramid, they had other building projects going on at the same time, which were even better than the Great Pyramid. So it shows you the kind of civilization they were, and it's just unbelievable.
Well, their measurements equal pi. And they use the golden ratio of 5. So they know a lot more than
we're supposed to know.
Yeah, what we're supposed to know. Yeah.
I see that the Sphinx, they've got it listed as 240 feet long and 66 feet high. So you got your 666. Imagine that, Ian. Imagine that. Charles, was Emile Barazzi? Was he the French engineer?
He could have been. That name rings a bell.
That's who it was. Yeah, Emile Barazzi. He's the one, 240 feet long and 66 feet high. Yes. The numbers, everything is numbers with these guys.
Yep. Well, it's all mathematical. So.
Yeah, I mean, whole life is math, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Pi.
Pi.
Well, if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, the YouTube channel Danny Wilton will blow your mind if you're good with numbers, and you'll be able to keep up with this guy. Because he does a lot of work on the phi ratio and the pi ratio in relation to Egypt mostly, but other sites as well. But an awful lot. Most of his work is on the pyramids and Egypt and the phi and pi ratios. But this particular image, I just stopped and paused and noticed this is, again, a result of the image after searching for Egyptian labyrinth. This, God, the word escapes me. It's not a Kabbalah. It's the Hindu. Damn it. God,
it's mandala.
Mandala. Thank you. Yeah, it's just reminiscent of a mandala.
Fact.
That's very interesting. The mandalas could have evolved out of schematic drawings or something, or who knows? It's that's complicated.
So I wanted to try to. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, another thing about just quickly about the labyrinth. Herodotus, he is called the father of lies, but his stories about the labyrinth were confirmed 400 years later by Strabo, the Greek traveler. And Strabo also traveled to Britain, and the Greeks in Herodotus' time actually didn't really know about Britain. But he actually said he descended a staircase down 90 steps down and into these caverns. And Herodotus before had not been allowed into these caverns because they contained the sepulchres of 12 kings. I'm assuming they are the god kings of the past. They could have been giants or something like that. And so this structure, it was around in Roman times, and we don't know what's happened to it, if it's been covered up, if it's been hidden, if they've cemented up if someone cemented up the entrance and there was a secret way to get in from that entrance, we're never going to know, because that entrance has been basically sealed forever, and the record of that entrance having existed would be somewhere in some archive somewhere that no one is looking at. So either they're going to have to do a lot of digging, or I don't know, because the thing is, when archaeologists get to a site and start messing with it, and if they dedicate their life to it, they ruin it. They really do ruin some of these sites.
Well, we haven't brought this up yet, but I do want to throw this out there, that the Smithsonian Institute is usually the institute of authority on all archaeological digs. When something anomalous is found, these people swoop in, they confiscate the anomalous artifact, they swear people to secrecy. And I also want to point out that the Smithsonian Institute was founded and started by John Smithton, who was, in fact, a 33rd degree Mason.
Probably Rockefeller's buddy.
Yeah, so I mean, therein lies the conspiracy. This whole archaeology, ancient human history, it's very clear. It's quite obvious to anyone paying any attention that we're not supposed to know about our true history. And this is an image of the labyrinth, the Egyptian labyrinth, a side view. Apparently it's underground. There's an entire city constructed on top of it. So this is a side view of, where did it go? It was this image right here. That's a side view of this image. So if you're looking in the entryway in the bottom right corner, looking straight in the entryway right there, darn it, open the wrong tab. There we go. Okay, so if you're looking in the entryway right there, darn it. What have I done?
That picture showed the labyrinth as if they were the recesses of essentially underneath a huge temple next to the pyramid. The thing is, there were no burials found at pyramids, so I'm skeptical if that is see, that's the reconstruction of what they think was the labyrinth, or someone thinks was the labyrinth. But I'm so skeptical about it because, firstly, there were no burials at pyramids. The other thing is, inside the labyrinth, do you know the Egyptians mummified everything? They mummified even dogs. Even fish. They mummified absolutely everything. Over and over again, they saw their priests saw this a way of achieving some kind of religious merit. And this place was full of mummies of crocodiles, and I don't know any pyramid where they found mummies of crocodiles as well. So I really don't know if that is the labyrinth, but it would have been even grander than that picture, much grander and much more sophisticated as well.
Well, somebody went to a lot of trouble for this particular image. It says at the bottom, copper plate engraving, and I can't read the rest of it because it's either French or something I don't recognize.
No.
But,
it says description de l'Egypte. Description of Egypt.
That picture is from 1809, so that was still 40 years before the alleged discovery of the labyrinth.
Which 40 years before?
Yeah, before, because it was Mariette was around in the the other guy, I can't remember the name, was around in the 1850s. So either this guy got into the labyrinth 40 years earlier, which is a possibility that the locals could have shown him, or something else is going on. And he seems to be aware of some cross-section as well, which is a bit weird. I mean, I don't know why a reconstruction would show a cross-section.
Well, I might lend to the idea that he was privy to the information 40 years before it was released. That tends to be the norm these days. I mean, anytime we get wind of anything, it's not new. It's old news by the time we hear about it, no matter what it is.
Very true.
You know, something that is discovered, it's kept until such time that they either can't keep it hush-hush or they bring it forward because it's you know, part of their agenda or whatever their plans are. So it wouldn't surprise me a bit that someone knew about this 40 years before the world did.
Well, that's the thing. And ancient travelers traveled from Greece, from Rome, and they traveled to Egypt all the time. They were fascinated by this stuff, and they were looking it up and going to sites and consulting people, and the people showed them around. So there could have been some ancient memory of that, the existence of that place, and it could have been hush-hushed. I mean, there is so much in archaeology that we don't cover. There is so much. I mean, you look at the tombs of the Chinese pyramids, you know, not allowed to even excavate. Even the archaeologists are not allowed in there, right? So that's how hush-hush that one is. And I mean, it's just crazy. But when the archaeologists get to it, the problem is that they try and seal off the site, they change everything around, and then they have their official story, the official story they're presenting to the world. For example, Heinrich Schliemann, he goes to Troy and he says, "I've discovered the Mask of Agamemnon." Or Lepsius says, "I've discovered the labyrinth," and none of it's actually true. I mean, even Schliemann himself, in his dying days, he actually began to question, and I think for much of his later life, he actually questioned whether or not that was Troy that he actually discovered or something else. The Romans thought the site that he was looking at was Troy, but it, you know, then again, it's a huge ancient legend. He didn't discover the enormously thick city walls of legend. They were not found. And there was so much that was not found. There's so much in ancient legend that does not correlate to what the archaeologists are digging up and claiming relates to the legends.
I'm going to break in again and just mention that we've got Aaron still highlighted again. We might want to unhighlight him.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So, yeah, and that's the thing. And once a story becomes official, it never changes. It becomes gospel. So if you look at Lepsius' story about the labyrinth, he says, so he went to the site and he said, "This is the labyrinth," and he didn't find anything that resembled Herodotus' description. And this is why they say, "Oh, Herodotus must have been lying," but that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I think Herodotus described a lot of authentic details, and Herodotus had no interest in lying whatsoever. I don't think he was telling fibs at all. And this is the thing. We have an 1850s view of where the labyrinth is. It's ridiculous. It's like archaeology is not allowed to change. I think that's just crazy.
It is. I agree.
I mean,
Crazy.
if you look at every science, well, almost every science is allowed to advance. It's allowed to change. And usually to affect a change, you need to present overwhelming evidence. So the only way to change the labyrinth situation is if they actually find the labyrinth itself. And that's going to be hard because of all the tampering that's been done to Egypt. Everything's been messed around. Everything's changed. It's...
Yep, most of it deliberately. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's a mess. The situation there is I mean, and you know, they've even rebuilt the labyrinth. I think Petrie was on the site and he started rebuilding it, but apparently the way he's rebuilt it looks nothing like Herodotus's description. And it's the same thing with the Minoans. Arthur Evans, who was in Crete, excavating Crete, he actually and even the archaeologists are saying that he actually rebuilt the palace of King Minos in a sort of 1930s Art Deco style, 1920s, 1930s, and it's a bit weird. So we bring it, yeah, we bring our own, and this is, we can't help this, but we bring our own perspectives and culture when we talk about the ancient past, and that's yeah,
Well,
that's a problem.
It can indeed happen, and especially if you're trying to redo what has come undone, you might mistake things in your perspective as opposed to how they really were initially.
Well, exactly. That's the problem. I mean, but archaeology is the one science that's not really changing that much.
True. They had it all down pat 50, 60, 100 years ago, and that's the way that's it. There's nothing new to find.
Yeah.
Right? Uh-huh. Except all the oop arts that they pay no attention to, and all of the megalithic structures that they pay no attention to or make excuses for, and yeah, on and on. You're right.
Those out-of-place artifacts are so weird. The one with the one with the spark plug, that one. Oh my goodness. It's hard to know what to make of those, and an archaeologist will never touch that. They're not allowed to. Then, if they touch that, the other archaeologists would just, you know, not talk to them. They would actually distance themselves from them, stop responding to their emails, and that person would be absolutely ostracized, and that would be the end of their career. So we have what we have here is a situation where there is an uninvestigated part of reality. And we're digging up these things, and people are throwing them away because I guess it's a problem of human nature. No one wants to touch these things. No one wants to touch the parts.
Well,
the
problem that we have is that the people who touch them have had the problems that you mentioned, the you know what I mean. They are ostracized.
Ostracized.
Yeah, they are ostracized. I was trying to go for a different form of that.
You're using French.
But at any rate, you know, they wind up losing jobs and livelihoods and, you know, becoming ruined. And so to try to make the decision going, this really should be stated as being this, but if I do that, I lose everything. Oh, it's just one of those things, you know. It's got that explanation. And, you know, that is really not how.
They lose their careers, and I know that it must have been happening at the Smithsonian because those giant skeletons, you know, all those giant skeletons, and who wants to touch that if they want to have a career? That doesn't make any sense. So, of course, they would have, you know, forgotten about those skeletons. They might still be there, or they might have just decided to shuffle their inventory around, and those things vanish because they're taking up storage space that other artifacts could be occupying, that people actually, you know, they actually want to present to the public, you know. So
yep. I had one person trying to argue with me that all of the giant skeletons were hoaxes, and I'm going, why would archaeologists write up, you know, be written up in newspapers back in the 1800s about finding these things? Why would they do that as a hoax?
Well,
you know,
absolutely. It makes no sense at all.
You know, it's like, no. Anyway, yeah, giant.
Because, you know, they do want to change our history and they want us thinking backwards, but it's way back then. I don't know if, mainstream archaeologists were, on board back then with that.
It's true, and we have to bear in mind that archaeologists are not going to tell us the real version of reality, because they have their careers to run, they have their lives to run. They just stick to one site their whole life basically and just keep investigating that and one speciality, and fair enough. But that means we have to rely on ourselves to investigate the past and no one else, and we have to do our own research and find out what went on. And it also means we have to not let anyone shut us down or shut down our ideas just because other people just happen to not have investigated or covered those ideas. Our ideas are legitimate, and we are looking at reality as well.
And this leads us into the final hour here, which I wanted to bring Mark into this a little bit here with the whole idea and concept of blocking the truth and censorship online for anybody who doesn't toe the mainstream narratives. There's been a lot of, like, I went through, Mark, I don't know if you watched one of our previous shows, but I was mentioning I went through my subscription list the other day, or about a week or two ago, to clean it out. And I basically had to dump about nearly half my subs that I used to have, just because of the whole, what I call YouTube purge going on right now.
Yep. I've gone to many channels and seen this channel, it was I forget how they word it, but something to the effect of violating policies, and it's like, okay.
And then you were mentioning, sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Well, and then you try to find them again. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Yeah, because you don't catch their video or they give you a warning. So, Mark, you mentioned that you're to 2 strikes on your main channel. Is that right?
Yeah, I was. I guess my last video I did was August 31st, and I had mentioned in the start of that video that it looks like my days could be numbered here with my channel, which at that time had just under 13,000 subs and over 2 million views, closing in on 2 million, but I've had more because I pulled videos and some have been delisted, yada yada. But I got a strike on June 30th from an Ariana Grande video that I did about the obviously the Manchester bombing, false flag, and it was for bullying. And I had not had a strike, community guidelines strike, other than one that I received probably 2 years ago. My channel's been up since July 2014, and I started making videos. MH370 was my first video. And then I got into Sandy Hook, made a couple on those, and then Lenny Posner came and got me, and who hasn't he got? So I had a strike on that, and I had a 3-month suspension. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
everyone's.
very true.
I know. I've talked to a few people.
We need to talk about Sandy Hook. Got me a copy.
Yeah, I got smoked for using Lenny's picture when the kid in Pakistan got smoked.
Yeah.
So I got that one.
But that wasn't his kid though. That was Huzaifa Huxaifa.
Yeah, Xylophone.
How could he have a copyright on Huzaifa Huxaifa?
Xylophone.
Son's picture, like.
So,
Yes.
so I got through that. I got through that 3-month window. I was a good boy, and then all of a sudden, they're talking about the truth and how we're not truthful. We're spreading false news, and I think the whole false news, fake news thing was a psyop, and they manufactured that. And look what it's done. It's it's turned ass backwards on us, and several of our channels have been going by the wayside, and I'm 1 strike away from going by the wayside. So that's why my logo here is my Twitter logo. It's the Chemtrails with Global Agenda, and it's not the 1111, because right now I'm on my new channel, which funny enough is called Global Agenda. So I had a Global Agenda 2, which has disappeared. And that's what I was talking about, Amy, earlier. I said it's a surprise. And I put this one. I registered this one during the last week, I guess it was, late in the week, because I've got one strike that comes up on September 28th. It expires, the one from Ariana Grande. And then I did that video on August 31st regarding the latest, the latest crap with the Hurricane Harvey and Irma. And I had put in my video that, check me out on VidMe because I think my days are numbered. And then 5 days later, I got a second strike. And we know that they've got these ambassadors now. YouTube's got these ambassadors that are going out looking and they're flagging videos.
It's called YouTube Heroes.
YouTube Heroes, that's right.
Yeah. Some heroes.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we know all about it.
Yeah, I know you guys.
Online persona management.
Yeah, well, they So I got another one for, but it was, I didn't bully or harass anybody. It was, I was talking about the Eagles of Death Metal and Altered Bridge. It was a video, has the Eagles of Death Metal pass the false flag torch to Altered Bridge, 2 rock bands. Really? And I got done for bullying, and I've appealed it. And I said, who did I bully? And I just opened up my my community guidelines strike today, and it says appeal rejected. Well,
can I ask you a question? When you went to click on the link to appeal,
yeah,
did you look at what that said down at the bottom? You know, where it shows the URL.
Yeah, and you know what it said to me?
Was it set to reject?
Yeah, it said, why are you appealing this? Just one little block space. Why are you appealing this?
Well, yeah, but before you click to get to that screen.
Before you even do that, the URL actually has the word reject embedded inside of it.
Yes, it's auto reject. Nobody pays any attention to anything you say. It's just set to reject.
That's right.
Yeah, well,
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm so experienced in community guidelines that I missed that. But I've heard since then, it's automatically rejected. Yeah.
And you know, Mark, the video I uploaded yesterday, okay, the one you just watched a little while ago, right, when we were chatting on Skype.
Yep.
It's just the video of me approaching the tower as we drive up. And not only do I have 2 thumbs down, but I got a comment. If you look down in my comment section, lovely comment from SCL Termination Services that said that it's the same. And Amy got the same one on a different video.
Yes, I did.
This channel is scheduled for termination.
Mm-hmm.
On my tower video, I'm approaching Devil's Tower, and I'm getting 2 thumbs down within minutes, and a threat. A threat from SCL, one of the many SCL channels. You're scheduled for termination. So thanks very much. Have a nice day.
Yeah, I did a video that I put up today about my particular experience with this charmer. And it's only 2 minutes long. And if anybody wants to visit my channel and take a peek at that, it should be the last video that I uploaded. Unless you're listening to this not immediately during or after the show. But they're bullying and making threats. And that, to me, and harassing.
By the way, I reported that comment for bullying and harassing.
So did I. I reported mine for bullying and harassing.
Well, it is harassment.
So there you go.
So the
it is. I mean, it's harassment and it's bullying. They're threatening my channel. They're harassing me.
Yep, they absolutely are.
Yeah. So I've been on suspension because it's my second strike. So I've been suspended since the 5th of September. So that's why I've been incognito. I haven't actually done anything with the new Global Agenda channel, which I'm still surprised I was able to call it Global Agenda. But
why not? Michael Resnicki can call his sock puppet Cerebrosana and Sidethorn and How I See the World. So I mean, why not?
Exactly. How does that work, right? like 2 minutes after they're telling me that you're banned for 2 weeks making videos and we got control of your channel, I'm able to, you know, muster up another global agenda Google account. So it's like, this is interesting how many people are out there able to do that, right? But that's, other than that, like it's just been, you know what? I've been fair with YouTube. I've been fair with Google. I don't swear in my videos. I don't, you know, I'm cheeky, and I've been playing by the rules. And then all of a sudden I get 2 dings, like, you know, back to back. And I haven't had any dings, you know, since Lenny Posner came after me, which is fine. But what I'm seeing now, and what you guys are seeing, is we're seeing the erosion and the eviction of several good channels on YouTube, because I guess it's really starting to hurt. I mean, when they're flagging 2 of my videos that both of them are you know, one's hovering around 3,000 views and the other one's like at 1,500 views, you know, that means I'm not hitting mass crowds. Who knows how many we're really hitting with the algorithms? But the thing is, you know, I'm hitting a point. So I'll take that badge of honor and I'll just plod along. And I know Aaron, earlier today you had sent me when we were on Skype, you had said, you know, you built your channel up to, you know, 12,000 plus subscribers, and you got a good bunch of views. You know, it's just too bad. And I know what, if it's going to be that way, you know, if God's will is that way, then that's fine. I'm just going to lift my head up and I'll walk out prouder. September 28th. What are we looking at? We're looking at the end of the month. We're looking at 13 days. 1 strike comes off and I'm back down to 1. But you know what? I don't, like you said to me, I don't want to live on YouTube
in
fearful of what I post. You know, that's not me. So I'll continue doing what I'm doing. I'll continue. If I have to create a different account, it'll get shut down. I mean, it's basically what we're witnessing is a lot of good channels are being shut down. And some of them are shills, definitely. We know there's some shills out there. But when we see the likes of these channels that are like talking about the cosmopolitan anal sex, you know, and the how to engage in teenage anal sex, like, and this is
we covered that Teen Vogue magazine.
Yeah,
we covered that a few weeks back. Yeah,
and you guys and you guys also covered the. Look at all these channels that are getting, you know, shut down, you know, come forward. So
did you know the Act Mommy, which is pretty damn huge. I don't know how big, but she's big. She was actually interviewed by Richie Allen, so she's to mention. She's the one who pointed out that the Teen Vogue magazine, which by the way markets to 11 to 16, 17-year-old girls, had several articles in there. One of them in particular was how to have proper anal sex. We covered this on one of our shows, and I wanted to point out for anyone who gives a shit about Activist Mommy, if you didn't know, her Twitter account was suspended because of her calling out Teen Vogue magazine.
I know, I saw that. I listened to the Richie Allen interview with her too. You know, I got my concerns with Richie, but at least Richie, you know, gives us some, you know, dose of reality on top of bullshit. But yeah, he gives us a nugget here and there. Yeah, it's like, you know,
and he poisons his own well.
Yeah, I mean, when he thinks, you know, he's broadcast from Manchester speaking Ariana Grande, and when he's like, oh, the next day he's like, oh, sorry to hear this thing. You know what? Hey, Richie, if you believe that Manchester was real, dude, you know what? Yeah. I got another cake in the oven for you, buddy.
Yes.
You know, and then I got, you know, some people are saying, you know, I don't like to call out names, but you got other shill channels out there that are, you know, they've interviewed Rebecca Roth from 9/11 and you know, the airline stewardess, and Rebecca Roth, she's one that came hard after me too. I did like an expose of 4 videos on her, and she threatened me with lawyers and all kinds of stuff, and I did have to pull those videos because I was under legal threat from.
Mark. One of our former guests, Jim Fetzer, did a complete expose on Rebecca Roth.
And I was with Fetzer and that whole crew going hard after her when that was going down. So yeah, I've spoken with Fetzer, and you know. And
Fetzer called in a radio show that Rebecca was giving an interview, right? You guys, are you aware of this?
Oh, yeah.
He was giving an interview on a radio show. I forget which one. Fetzer actually called in and made it onto the panel and talked to her and questioned her about her theories. And she didn't want to talk about, regardless of who it was, she didn't want to be questioned at all.
Yeah, and if you recall,
She's weird the way she reacted.
Oh, she's crazy. If you've listened to her interviews, when we exposed her a couple of years back there around Christmas, I think it was 2015, it was around there, because she ended up getting, ill and she had to go off and blah, blah, blah. But when she was challenging Fetzer and guys like myself to come and talk to her, so Fetzer did, he got on, and then she didn't want to talk to him. So you know what? You had a chance to air your piece with the dude, and you didn't take it. But we're kind of a little off topic there, but it's still talking about censorship regardless of the fact. So, Rebecca Roth, there's some channels that as soon as I see they give credibility to that one RR, I go right away, oh, you're gatekeeping. And that's why there's some channels that I've got my problems with. So that's, I'm sure there's people that have problems with my channel too. So that goes, here and there. You guys know me. I'm nothing but, here's the deal, the real deal. Here's the Jim Fetzer. Say what you want about Fetzer either way, but it's it's the real deal. So they don't like the real deal, and that's why they're coming after and shutting us down. And I was asking Charles earlier before we went on the air, have you, Charles is, he came in. I see that Charles came in around 2014 as well as I did. He's got great views, and he's got a great channel that's growing. And my channel has been dormant at. I keep taking screen snaps of my subs, and I haven't moved from 12,800 and change in months. And I was like growing at 2,000-3,000 subs every other month.
I'm getting
nothing. I'm getting nothing. And that's the algorithms, and that's why we're buried. And that's the whole part of the artificial intelligence. As soon as,
I had been watching my channel grow consistently for the last 2 years. And in the last couple of months,
I've been commenting on you. You have been growing.
In the last couple of months, my sub count, the consistency of growth has absolutely come to a standstill.
Totally. And then that's why you're not going to get views either, because they're not going to be showing in any algorithms at all, because they look at the comments, they look at the likes. All my videos now, I'll get up to maybe 30 thumbs up, and that's it. I used to get several thumbs up, more than 30 on a 3,000, 4,000 viewed video. So that's why, Charles is not
pretty common. It should be 10%, which is what I've been noticing all along, is my thumb count. The thumbs up is typically about 10% of the view count, almost perfectly consistent all along. So yeah, you can track it that way too.
Yeah, so that's why like someone said to me in the past, you can't live by the view counts and the thumbs up and the subs, because it's all controlled. I mean, you know what? RFB, Richie from Boston, I saw Russian vids. I'm mentioning a couple of channels here, because these guys came and they give me props, big ups, and then I saw their channels take off. And I was like going, okay, RFB, you've got 15,000 subs, you're a few thousand more than me, and boom, now the guy's over like 100,000 subs. I'm going, what? And he posts a video and he gets 35,000 views in like 24 hours. I'm going, what? He's talking about the exact same stuff I'm talking about.
Except he's flat Earth.
Yeah, he's flat Earth.
So he gets the flat Earth algorithm vote, eh?
Yeah.
So he thinks that the trees were cut down too?
I don't know about that, but Richie is flat Earth.
Richie. Oh, Richie.
You know what I found interesting?
On my next channel,
I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but I found this interesting. I was listening to Max Egan. He's got his YouTube channel is called The Crow House, and I was listening to some of his broadcasts a couple of weeks ago. And he mentioned, his subscribers asked him who he recommended, and he rattled off a list of people, and among them was Richie from Boston. And I went, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, really.
Max Egan is promoting Richie from Boston, Flat Earth Richie from Boston.
Yeah, Max, UFO Egan.
Not good. Not
No,
Max
Not
Egan,
good at all.
Mr. Best Friends with pedophile Zen Gardner, is now promoting Flat Earth. Richie from Boston.
Speaking of Richie from Boston, when I go to my channel, you know the list of related channels.
I know, I get that too.
I've got a list of 6 here, and I've got Rufus Cat, Maddie D, Truth Virus,
And Richie.
the Conscientious Objector, and RR Plan B, all of which I'm subscribed to, and the one I'm not subscribed to here is Richie from Boston.
Yeah, I get that too, Amy.
So
amazing.
So anyway, I think that what I'll be doing is I'll probably wait until the 28th, and then I'm gonna push the new channel. But one of the concepts I'm looking at doing is I'm doing a lot of cycling here in God's country, and I cycle probably 15 to 20 kilometers mostly every day, and I'm in beautiful backcountry. So I know it's late in the season, but what I want to do is I'm going to get a GoPro camera.
I was just gonna say
I'm gonna be like S. Williamism, only on the bike.
Williamism, yeah. Sam.
With the camera on my helmet, and as I cycle, which usually takes me an hour and 20 minutes to do my run, I'm just gonna have the camera rolling, and I'm gonna be showing the viewers the beautiful countryside I'm in, and I'm gonna be talking about issues of the day, because I think that someone said it the other day, and I think it was on Sergeant Report, or it was on Hagman, and they said the best way to avoid the trap of this community guidelines, censorship, bullying, is to have what we're doing right now, just to have interviews and go back and forth and discuss things without actually putting together videos and, like I like to do, smacking them in the back of the head, right? So I think that's
except for one.
Wait, yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute.
Except for one thing, Mark.
Yeah, you guys
Hang on.
have been targeted there. That's right.
We got smacked for doing screen shares.
Screen shares.
A couple of weeks ago, I was actually interviewing Charles Kos of all people, and for the first time ever, I was doing a screen share. I wanted to show Charles something from a documentary, and I was trying to find it, and it took me 5 minutes or so, and I was playing little segments of this documentary during our Charles Kos interview a couple weeks ago. And I got a notice on my screen while I'm screening that said, "You're not authorized to use this content if you don't start to end your broadcast."
Wow.
And then after I stopped screen sharing, I tried to screen share something else later on, and my screen share was completely disabled for the whole show.
No way.
Yep.
So we got to be careful with our screen shares now. It's amazing. The censorship is overwhelming.
And then there's also the fact that the one strike I have on my channel is for one of our shows.
Yeah. Amy's got a strike for our side.
How does that work out?
That's a good question. But when I moused over the option to appeal, sure enough, down at the bottom it says type reject. And so I already knew I was going to have it rejected, no matter what I said in my appeal.
I think that you had mentioned that too, didn't you? Now, Ian's broadcasting this. Has Ian come across any censorship issues?
Luckily, not yet.
I don't think.
He has no strikes, and that's why we're hosting on his channel right now. He's the only one of the three of us who's not, in the penalty box.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yep.
Okay, so I had to laugh because I think I did it in my last video on Harvey. I mentioned the fact that one of my videos I had the American Pie title in it, where I was talking about Tara Reid at Christmas when all the celebrities were going down, like the mother and daughter tandem with Debbie Reynolds and Carrie Fisher, right? And that same week on Christmas Day, Tara Reid's father passed away as well of a heart attack. They were all dropping with heart attacks, right? And I put one of my titles was American Pie, and you know what? I monetized for over a year ago. I average about $1.09 a month. I don't even get it. I don't even get I don't even get it sent to PayPal because you have to have $10 for PayPal to transfer it to your account, right? So I can't even get out of my monetization. They won't allow me to get away from Skylab because I'm stuck in this window of guideline strikes. So I'm laughing because I'm doing research on the video, and I see that American Pie, they monetized the first American Pie 1 on my channel. So if you go to that Tara Reid American Pie video that I did, which is still up, hasn't been shut down. The first thing you see after the description is for $3.99 you can watch American Pie online. And here I can't even get pennies for monetization of video, but these guys are asking for $4 on my video to watch their movie, and I go, who authorized this? I didn't authorize that on my channel. So this is the whole what's the word I would look for? The hypocrisy of YouTube and Google. And it's just one more thing that just makes me shake my head, and you know what? I stay positive. I take a time out. So I'm in the penalty box right now. I'm being a good boy. Yeah. But you know what? I'll come back, and we'll come back with something new, and that's why I'm on this channel right now with you guys. But I could be on the other channel still talking to you guys, but I'd rather not right now.
And we love you for it. So Ian, if you haven't already, if you would please highlight my icons so that the tower is in the background. And Charles, I wanted to ask you, have you had any trouble with censorship, either on your channel, with any of your content, or maybe some of the colleagues or friends in your circles that you travel in YouTube land? Have you had any trouble with censorship?
Well, I've been lucky, so I haven't had any strikes, and I do know that you have to, stay away from using certain. You can't use any music. So even a radio playing in the background, you couldn't use that. So I do try and stay away from politics, and I think hopefully that'll stop me from getting any strikes. But you never know. I mean, if some bully pops up, they can just report you. So who knows if that can happen. So, I'm not putting, everything into YouTube because I know that, things can pop up, and there are lots of haters out there. There are so many haters. Like you see that the comments that you and Amy got with, that guy from SLC or whatever the hell it was.
SCL.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's just another form of hater, really, at the end of the day. So it's...
well, actually, no.
Listen,
SCL
Charles, for someone like yourself who doesn't really spend a lot of time researching rabbit holes of the conspiracy nature, with the exception of the stuff that you do, which is conspiratorial in itself, because you point out a lot of flaws in the official narrative of human history, which is its own conspiracy, by the way. You're probably not aware of what we know about. It's called online persona management, which is a provision in the National Defense Authorization Act, and it allows the military, the U.S. military, to create up to 10 SOC accounts per U.S. military personnel. We currently have 1.4 million. That's potentially 10.4 million SOC accounts, and that's just the U.S. military. That's not the intelligence agencies. That's not other corporations, private entities, other intelligence agencies around the world, other governments around the world, other militaries. That's just the U.S. military. So the reality is that paid trolls are a real thing. Paid trolls are a real, very real thing. Yeah. And I would also point out that since we know that you can buy YouTube channels, you can buy thumbs up, you can buy likes, you can buy shares, you can buy subscribers, and by the same token, you can also buy the opposite. You can buy trolls.
Wow.
Yep.
So imagine a giant building, maybe, I don't know, 50 stories tall in Bangladesh, and there is nothing but floor after floor of cubicles, and there are thousands of people whose job it is to sit at a computer, and every morning they get a list of channels, YouTube channels, or maybe blogs, or maybe websites, or maybe forums, and their job is to show up and either act like an asshole and troll and talk shit, or to give thumbs up and to give likes and shares. So like Richie from Boston, like Mark said, a guy gets 35,000 views, you know, in a couple of hours. And it's like, it's a real head spinner for someone like that. It's like, how does that even happen? Well, with a few dollars, you can pay for it.
Max Malone, we called him out a couple years ago with the TransAsia.
Max is flat Earth, by the way.
Yeah, well, 235, the TransAsia G235. Him and at that time it was Jeff C. Amy, you probably recall. Free Radio Revolution, right? Yeah, and
right.
And Max Malone and him got into a fabricated fight, yada. And I had some damning video that I actually kept open and before it left, and I uploaded it and kept it, and then I ended up popping it. And then I was given some inside information from Thailand, and it showed that Max Malone was had 10,000 trolls that he had purchased from Thailand. And like you just said about Bangladesh, Aaron, yeah, he had the Thailand people that he had. You can purchase them for pennies, but you still get them. And then that's one of the reasons why a channel like his was so successful as well, because I totally believe that you can buy your way into shares, views, likes, dislikes, and trolls, and
by the same token, you can buy the opposite. You can buy people whose job it is to show up on your channel on a regular basis and harass you. Like SCL Group shows up on my bloody video where all I'm doing is filming my approach to the tower, and I've got 2 thumbs down and a threat that my channel is scheduled for termination. Oh, and by the way, my reply to SCL termination services, I said, "So what are you waiting for?"
Yeah, really. I have my reply to him.
Put up or shut up.
I did.
As we lose Aaron.
As we lose Aaron.
Oh, you lost me?
No, I was just kidding.
Really?
Hey, Ian, by the way, Ian, click my icon because the sun's about to go away, and I want to get this tower in the background on full screen. Oh, okay.
It looks great, Aaron. It looks awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, for me, it's
a nice picture.
Isn't it one of the wonders of the world? It's one of the 9 or whatever.
We're gonna make it the 8th, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it already is.
So.
Oh, I wanted to just to go back real quick, Aaron. Did you see that I just hidden archaeology, and you guys, I know you had Michael Cremo on, right? I just Googled Michael Cremo and Devil's Tower, and then I got the Facebook page, and when I scrolled down, I saw that Conspiracy Sphere on August 1st, he's got a picture of the Devil's Tower, and then it's transposed below it. It's got a bunch of root systems, and it's from Casper Planet, and it says new discovery will change history. A huge, startling discovery has been made at Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Scientists from the Wyoming State Parks Department were conducting photographic seismic readings below the tower when they discovered an incredibly large petrified root system below the tower. The Parks Department released a statement saying we have discovered what looks like a giant root system.
What looks like? There's your qualifier right there.
Yeah,
what looks like.
Go. And then you go on the Tower Rock Formation. A satirical Facebook page appeared to report that the Devil's Tower, a large rock formation in Wyoming, was actually the remnants of a giant tree. And of course, that's Snopes. So the first Google search you get is Snopes. So there's
I've been to Snopes.
And they gave it a true.
Yeah, Snopes is a joke.
Aaron, they gave it a true. They gave it a thumbs up.
That's how you know it's not true.
I'm joking. They gave it a false. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, Michael Cremo and the Roots.
Oh, that's weird. I can't.
Weird, eh? Yeah.
All right, I can't believe Michael Cremo is signing on to that one. I'll tell you that I've been to Hawaii and I've seen the lava tubes. I've walked through them and I've seen the lava trees. Okay. I've seen them with my own eye, touched them, and they, if you filled it with concrete and then took a seismographic photograph, it would look like a root system.
It's true. I believe that.
There you go.
I believe that.
Yeah. By the way, I looked up the 7 natural wonders of the world, and they seem to be officially, I don't know. Anyway, we've got the canned grunion. I mean, the Grand Canyon.
Grunion.
That's what my dad used to call it, the canned grunion.
That's cute.
Anyway, the Great Barrier Reef, the harbor at Rio de Janeiro, Mount Everest, the Northern Lights, Partacutan volcano, and Victoria Falls. Now, the Devil's Tower is not on the list. Yeah, I'd never heard of the Partacutan.
Let's check that out. Let's look at that. I'm curious. Why would that be in there?
I don't know, but I will do a quick search and get back with you when I found something.
All right. So Charles, remind everybody, you wrote a book, right? What's the name of your book?
My book is In Search of the Origin of Pyramids and the Lost Gods of Giza. And that's basically about saying that we shouldn't look at national borders of the 20th century to decide who built the Great Pyramid. We should be looking at tribes in the Stone Age wandering around, because pyramids are worldwide. So we can look at prehistoric worldwide gods from the Mesolithic even. And, you know, there's so much, you know, Egyptology. The name shows that those people are looking at Egypt and no one else. But that's not the way it was in the Stone Age. There was no Egypt when the pyramids were built. There was a kingdom in the Delta. There was a kingdom in the South. So that's what my book is about.
Referring to the lost gods of Egypt, 10 of them.
Sorry?
Did I break up?
Yeah, you
yes,
broke up.
did.
Would there happen to be 9 of them, the lost gods of Egypt? Because I did a little research on this, not particularly looking for Egypt or gods of Egypt, but I was researching, quote unquote, the 9 in relation to another researcher who escapes me at the moment. I'm just woof right out of my mind as I was talking about it.
Well, actually, you're right. I'm not sure specifically if there were 9, but if you look at Giza, there are 3 pyramids times 3 pyramids. There are 3 next to one, 3 next to the other. So there are 9 big pyramids.
Are you saying it's a 33?
There's something. Something. We don't know how far back those numbers go, but there's something to that as well. For sure, Giza is a 3 times 3 sort of system. I think the pyramids are sort of built in honor of, for one reason, they're built in honor of some gods that we don't know, and that's why they're lost. So, and they're not Egyptian gods. They try and ascribe it to Osiris. It's nothing to do with Osiris. Osiris is fertility. I guess that's the only link. Maybe the Orion Belt as well. And yeah, for sure, the number 9. Now that's the. I believe that's called the Aeneid or something like that, and that's an interesting theory as well. I'm not sure who those 9 were. I mean, were they kings? Were they actual gods? They are quite mysterious. Those, yeah.
I was doing some research, and it's Peter Levenda, by the way. My memory just farted on me a moment ago. Peter Levenda talks about the 9, and he may even have a book with that title, and it refers to American blue blood aristocratic families, including the Astors and the Carnegies and some others that I can't now. They had a seance. Now these are the movers and shakers of the day, the robber barons, right? The magnates. They had a seance of all things, these people, and there were 9, by the way. And they claim contact with 9 entities. Now, whatever that means. And I've been listening to Peter Levenda give lectures and radio interviews for many years, and he talks about this all the time. And I was so curious about the quote unquote, the 9. I hadn't read the book. So I went and do a little digging, and I discovered that most major civilizations and or cultures around the world have their own version of the 9, including the Egyptians. So that's why I asked.
Well, it's kind of, It's super interesting you bring this up. The Nine were a group of gods that groups of remote viewers, certain cults in the late 20th century, claimed to have contacted, or they were the agents of the Nine.
That's what we're talking about.
Exactly. And the book this is in, it's called The Stargate Conspiracy from the 90s. And this is a very interesting thing, because when remote viewers actually did their astral travel or whatever it is, they found themselves at Giza, and they found themselves looking at pyramids. And this is so similar to Devil's Tower, where that Indian found himself on top of Devil's Tower. So there is something going on with regards to maybe the geomagnetism of the site, or something else. And I just find that really weird. And it's to do with the abduction phenomenon. I'm sure it's to do with haunting phenomena as well. Go on, Amy.
Yeah, I have something on. It's not part. It was a weird font. It's Parikutin. Parikutin. It says from Wikipedia, our favorite source. Parikutin, or Volcan de Parikutin, also accented Parikutin, is a cinder cone volcano located in the Mexican state of Michoacan, near the city of Uruapan, gotta get that right, about, are you ready for this, 322 kilometers, 200 miles, west of Mexico City. The volcano surged suddenly in the cornfield of a local farmer, Dionisio Pulido, in 1943, attracting both popular and scientific attention. Parikutin presented the first occasion for modern science to document the full life cycle of an eruption of this type. During the volcano's 9 years of activity, the scientists sketched and mapped it and took thousands of samples and photographs. By 1952, the eruption had left a 424-meter high, 1,391 feet, cone, and significantly damaged an area of more than 233 square kilometers, 90 square miles. With the ejection, these numbers are just blowing my mind. With the ejection of stone, ash, and lava, 3 people were killed. Two towns were completely evacuated and buried by lava, and 3 others were heavily affected. Hundreds of people had to be permanently relocated. And 2 new towns were created to accommodate their migration. Although the larger region still remains highly active volcanically, Parikutin is now dormant and has become a tourist attraction, with people climbing the volcano and visiting the hardened lava-covered ruins of San Juan Paragaricutiro Church. In 1997, CNN included Parikutin in its list of the 7 natural wonders of the world. So now we know.
Well, if I haven't already, allow me to just say, wow. That was super interesting.
Yeah.
Did you get any images associated? I mean, for it to be a natural wonder of the world, one of the, I don't know, was it the seven natural wonders?
It just looks like Mount St. Helens.
That image right there in Hawaii is known as a pu'u.
That's Pui.
A pu'u as a dormant volcano.
Oh, is that what it is? A
Yeah.
poo-poo? Who made the 7 natural wonders? Who
Knows who?
is that? United Nations? Who's in charge? Who's the vice president of operations for the 7 wonders of the world? Because the vice president makes all the decisions.
It's a 7 wonders.
Yeah, based out of the Smithsonian basement with the giant head. Oh, the skeletons are in the Smithsonian closet. That's right, Charles. That's right. Oh my God, that's funny though. I've never heard that the Paracutan was one of the 7 natural wonders. I just learned something, Amy, and it was so late in the day. Thank you very much.
That's according to CNN, but
that's where you got the 322 and the 233 from.
Yes. And look, this picture is 3333.jpg.
Holy shit!
Hey.
I kid you not.
So Charles, what are you working on lately? What's your next endeavor? What do you got your eyeballs set on now?
Well, I'm actually putting the finishing touches to a book, and it's called Confessions of the Gods, and it's about the ancient Vimanas, basically, and I'm talking about the ancient super civilization, the stuff that's in the Mahabharata of India, and it talks about flying cities. And that's what got me onto the idea of the ancient technology in the Great Pyramid, because there's a theory going around the internet that many of these Indian temples and Asian, especially those temples in South India, which look really technological, and I suppose you could compare that to the Mayan pyramids, they actually do look like the Vimanas, which are described in the really ancient texts. And so part of my theory with the pyramids is that all these temples are really trying to be the same thing. They're just regional variants. So therefore, if we look at the Great Pyramid and we look at the precision, especially the descending corridor, which has unbelievable, I don't know the exact, I think it's off by, it's something like off by 1/3 of an inch or off by 3/4 of an inch as you go down hundreds of meters. It's amazing precision. And I'm thinking this is the only use you would have for this kind of precision is for sort of space age technologies. And is that what they're trying to replicate, but in stone? Because yep, go on.
I don't know if you've seen the film Stargate.
Yeah.
But since we know that they like to tell us truths in the films that they put out, is it conceivable that, like in Stargate, the ships were pyramidal shaped but had a pyramidal hole in the bottom, and they'd come and sit on top of pyramids?
Wow. I don't recall that, but I have a theory that there is no such thing as fiction, because how is the fiction inspired? Firstly, we know reality is stranger than fiction, but how is the fiction inspired in the first place? Where did it come from?
Exactly. That's why I love Charles Kos. That is why. That right there.
Well, think about it, because you can't just create something that is completely implausible. I think a lot of this was simply channeled from the universe. The universe is giving us the brain is a kind of antenna, so we're getting information all the time. Some people express this information as fiction. Some people express this information as a scientific discovery that suddenly pops into their head during a dream. Other people express this as non-fiction and write books about it and formulate theories. I think it's all kind of similar. I mean, I used to be a fan of Doctor Who, and a lot of it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, and a lot of everything is plausible. Everything in that show, because it's all just showing that all the gods are ancient technology, especially their 70s episodes. So yeah, I think that, and it got me thinking that fiction is actually just another type of it's another way of expressing beliefs. And if you look at any science fiction novel, and I know, Amy, you've read some science fiction.
Oh, tons of it. In fact,
yeah. Well, a science fiction novel. Yeah, go on.
I've met many of the big science fiction writers way back when. I used to hang out in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Science Fantasy Society, i.e. LOSFAS, and go to all the science fiction conventions. And I remember discussing the universe with George Clayton Johnson, Larry Niven, Jerry Pournelle, and who else? Robert Forward. C.J. Cherry. Anyway, enough about my glorious experience with science fiction writers.
A lot of those people, they're just great minds, and they express themselves through science fiction. And you know, a lot of stuff that Stephen Hawking, Michio Kaku are talking about, every time they open their mouth, I just think, well, that's science fiction. You know, it's just another form of, it's another way of expressing reality, really. I mean, and especially with Michio Kaku, I mean, wow, some of those ideas. But I think that they have to be plausible. And science fiction, writing a science fiction book, I think it's just another way of testing. It's a way of testing out a theory. You put your characters to it, and you see if it works. And
right.
It's just our brains. Yeah, exactly. And it's our brains trying to see if this scenario is plausible, if this is a plausible representation of future, or if it can work. It's like testing a theory. And I think, you know, we know that a lot of science fiction has been surpassed. I mean, if you look at the Isaac Asimov stuff, you know, he had people flying spaceships, and to work out what star system they're in, because he wasn't quite in the computer age when he wrote this stuff. The people would point a telescope out of the spaceship, you know, portal to investigate the star system, and then they'd look up a table in a book to find out what star it was, you see. So we've totally surpassed, you know, some of the greatest science fiction. And I remember even Stanislav Lem pointed out as well that part of the thing about living to an old age is you see all your science fiction works become scientific reality, basically. So yeah, I think that there is no fiction. It's just all these ideas have got to come from somewhere, and they've got to be plausible, and they've got to work. Or they would have no basis in reality. People wouldn't buy the books.
Well, that's brilliant, Charles. That's why we love you, because of the way you think. Mark, it's
thanks.
been fantastic catching up with you. Charles, you're our new best friend. I swear to God, we just love talking to you and love the way you think and love your videos that you're putting out. Mark, sorry about your channel. You're gonna come back strong. You're not gonna go away. We know this for sure.
It's in absolutely. I'm in the Poundly box, buddy. Yeah. But you know, it's bad timing for me because I've been seeing 923 for about 2 years now, and we're a week away from what.
Well, yeah, we're a week away from Revelation 12 taking place.
12-1. Yeah. We'll see what goes down. I mean,
Jupiter is going to be birthed by Virgo.
Yeah.
And the prophecy of Revelation 12 is coming true in here in a couple more days.
And you just have to Google search 923, and now you've got the Sun, the Express, and all the papers and mainstream media are now all saying conspiracy theorists are seeing it coming to an end. Well, you know what? Something's going to happen. It could be the beginning of something. It's not.
You know what? You know, Mark, my theory, and so far based on a little bit of experience, is when something like this is so overwhelmingly hyped, usually nothing happens.
Well, Hurricane Irma, and that's what I've been working on, is the hurricanes and the way they were manipulating these storms through heart pulse, whatever you want to say. There was all kinds of variables, but somebody had said, I think it was Weather War 101, and he said before it happened that Hurricane Irma will be a non-issue. And guess what? The biggest storm ever was a non-issue. And that's why you're talking about the hype. They hyped up Irma following Harvey, and Irma, you know, give me a break. You had a flood in your basement. I had a flood in the basement the other day, and the pump got rid of it. September 23rd is the 266th day of the year, and there are 99 days remaining until the end of the year. So there's your numbers right there. So that's what I was working on, and I still am working on it, you know. And I'm watching the Donald, what you had sent to me. I have not let that one go. Did an author from the 1800s predict that Trump's Russia and America?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Well, the thing that I came up with relative to that is we know that they use a lot of things as their playbooks. And maybe he was told, we also know they selected him as the CEO for the corporation decades ago.
Yep.
And they probably told him to name his kid Baron because there's this story that they can use to make it look like things are being predicted.
Let's not forget that Donald Trump's uncle, John Trump, was MIT professor and physicist who worked on high voltage electricity. He was the guy that got the call when the FBI raided and confiscated all of Tesla's stuff in 1943 when he died.
Yep.
John Trump got the call to go through it. So there's also the fringe conspiracy possibility that maybe there's some time travel involved here.
Definitely.
It's conceivable. I will not give that zero probability.
Fringy. I'm not gonna rest my hat on it, but it's certainly worth note.
Yep.
I wouldn't rule it out, that's for sure.
Nothing would surprise me anymore. But listen, you guys, if I haven't mentioned it, I thought I might have mentioned it at the beginning of the show. I just want to reiterate. Chuck Zukowski of UFOnut.com, Deputy Director of Animal Mutilations for MUFON International, is campsite. He pulled in last night right next to me. He's speaking at the UFO conference in the next town over. And I'm gonna cross my fingers. He said that he might give me an interview tonight. He's gonna get home late. And I asked him, I said, if you got any energy left, I'll be awake and let's do it, because I may or may not be here tomorrow. We're scheduled to leave. So cross your fingers. I'm going to get a killer interview, an amazing synchronicity, an amazing opportunity just fell right into my lap. And I would love to talk to this guy. And so other than that, it's been great talking to you. It's been fantastic catching up with you, Mark. Charles, you're brilliant as ever, and we love you around here. You're our new best friend. And I haven't been watching the chat because of my Wi-Fi connection is sketchy, so I wanted to keep the bandwidth at a minimum. So thanks everybody for checking us out. And final thoughts, guys.
I can thank a few people here. David McClinton, Greatest Potential, Blue Blood Guitar, Allison Twist O'Neill. Let's see, A Fatal Paper Cut. Okay, Juxtapose. Broadsword. Let's see who else.
Ferreira or whatever.
Allison Twist O'Neill.
F your G. Let's see who else.
There's no Mark.
Sandra. Sierra. I'm
Sierra.
On that.
Sandra Texera.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people in the chat tonight. I think we've covered everybody. But if I missed,
thanks again.
Yep, I did say broadsword.
Yeah, I think we went through everyone.
Los Valdez came in, and thanks to him.
Thanks everybody once again. Thanks Mark for being here. We'd like to have Mark back on the show and spend a couple hours with you, going over what you've been uncovering for the last little while.
Yep.
And again, thanks
Absolutely.
Charles. It's been a pleasure. Always educating.
How about the 29th?
Hey, you guys, listen. The weather has turned on me up here in Wyoming. Our plans have changed. We were going to try to go over to Yellowstone, but there's some really, really, really bad weather, winter weather coming in for a day or two, and it's going to be really shitty, cold weather. 22 degrees as a low. So we're gonna change course. We're gonna go south, and we're gonna try and hit Meteor Crater, Arizona. And then on our way home, we're going to stop and visit a friend of mine in San Antonio. From there, we're going to stop at Glen Rose, Texas, just outside of Dallas, and see the dinosaur tracks and the human footprints. So, we'll all, the gods willing, maybe I'll connect with you guys next week, and I'll maybe be able to broadcast from Meteor Crater or Glen Rose or something like that if I can.
That'd be cool.
No promises, but we'll see what we can do.
That's awesome, Aaron.
next week.
All the best.
So
Be safe, big dog. Be safe.
Love always, you guys.
All right. All the best. Thank you, everyone. Yes?
Charles, it was nice sitting with you, buddy. You're doing some yeoman's work out there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, it was, and thanks for saying I'm brilliant, Aaron. You're all brilliant, and this has been a great conversation. I've really loved listening to it. It's amazing. Okay.
well, once again, it's been Conspiracy or Not. Here we come, and talk to you all next week.
Thanks, Ian.
Much love, everybody. See you. Bye.